Okay, I get it. I will start out with an apology. Um, I would like to welcome you all to the April 22nd special board meeting. I'd like to start out with two things. Number one, an apology from our board to the audience for being late. We've been in closed session, and that's where we handle quite a bit of the district's business that is very sensitive in nature, and we apologize for being late. Please accept that in a most humble fashion. The next thing I'd like to do is thank you all for being here tonight. We will do our best to make an efficient use of your time and respect you, but we sure do appreciate everybody here. If you do, following a presentation, leave, we just ask you to kind of keep it down in the hallway because it does resonate right through these walls, and we hear people, and we typically continue the business. But we are really, really happy you're here tonight. We are going to start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we are going to be led by two students from Barnett, and we are three students from Barnett, and we are incredibly happy that you're here. We've got Kai, we've got Isabel, and we've got Gabby. One of our students is going to be signing the pledge for us, correct? Two of our students are going to be signing the pledge, and I got to tell you, I've been on this board since 2016, and we haven't had that yet, so I sure do appreciate your addition to our board meeting. So, Kai, is that you with the microphone? Take it from here, Kai.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Remove hats and hoods. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We'll hear an open session when we do public comment. All right, Kai, Isabel, and Gabby, thank you very much. Great job. I like the addition of the signing. So whoever's idea that was, nice job. Thank you. We do have a few readouts from closed session that I need to make sure and cover. In closed session today, by motion of member Maya Phillips, seconded by member Don Perfect, the board voted to uphold the expulsion and approve a new rehabilitation plan for student number 23-10. The roll call of the vote of the board was as follows. The ayes were Darren Drum, Roger Dome, Dan Summers, Maya Phillips, Don Perfect. Nobody voted against, and there were no abstentions. The second item in closed session that we took action on. In closed session today, by motion of member Roger Dong, seconded by member Dan Summers, the board voted to direct staff to return without action JPA claim number 24-06227 against the Ramona Unified School District by the following roll call vote. The ayes were Roger Dong, Darren Drum, Don Perfect, Maya Phillips, Dan Summers. Nobody voted against, and there were no abstentions. Item number 3 in closed session. In closed session today, by motion of member Don Perfect, seconded by member Dan Summers, the board voted to enter and approve a settlement agreement in a student special education litigation, OAH, case number 20244110665, by the following roll call vote. Those who voted for this were as aye were Roger Doan, Darren Drum, Maya Phillips, Dan Summers, Don Perfect. There were no votes against and no abstentions. Those were just three of the many items that we discussed in closed session, and we will be going back into closed session after this meeting, after we conclude this meeting, but we do not have any items that will need to be reported out as a result of going back into closed session. Moving right along. Mr. Dohm, will you please read the instructions for addressing the school board?
Okay. The Ramona Unified School District welcomes your participation at the district's school board meetings. Your participation assures us of continuing community interest in our schools. To assist you in the ease of speaking and participation in our meetings, the following guidelines are provided. Orange request to be heard cards are available to all audience members who wish to speak on any agenda item. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes per person or 15 minutes per item. Submit completed orange cards to the board's recording secretary in advance of the item presentation. Orange request to be heard cards will not be accepted once the agenda item has commenced. Speakers are asked to direct all comments to members of the board. All participants are asked to be respectful to other speakers when they are addressing the board.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is item C5, which is the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a question about that. Maybe addition or correction. What about the April 10th meeting? Do we need to have a record of that somewhere in our agenda?
Brian, can you look into that and get back to us?
Because we had an official meeting on schedule and it formally did take place.
Brian will look into it and get back to us. There are
Okay.
no minutes. But if we do have, for procedural sake, we'll bring it back. Thank
Okay.
you. Good call. Any other questions?
No?
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item C6, which is the approval of the consent calendar.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of the consent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to take pause here in the meeting for a few introductions. Dr. Thurman.
Thank you, President Drum. We have two new staff members with us tonight. First one I'll introduce is Mr. Bobby Huffman. I don't see him. Where
He's right
is
here.
Bobby? Oh, right over the side. I couldn't miss him. Thank you. Bobby is the brand new maintenance and operations manager, and he has been filling in and doing a great job. So congratulations, Bobby. Thank you for being here tonight, and look forward to working together. Thank you. The other person we have is the new Ramona High School principal starting in the summer, and so Mike Giammi is right here. Mike comes to us from Poway with lots of experience from athletics to special ed to instructional practices. Mike, can you introduce your family for us, please? Thanks. Hello, Jennifer. All right. We really appreciate your family coming out tonight. Thank you. I know you guys have been here waiting for a long time, but congratulations again, Mike and Bobby. Welcome. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So the reason that we took that pause is because the board just approved them as part of the consent calendar. So prior to that vote, it wasn't official. Now it is official. Welcome, Mike. Bobby, thank you for sticking with us, and thank both of you for picking Ramona. We look forward to a long, prosperous career with both of you and seeing where we can take your positions and what improvements we can make in the district. So welcome very much. Next item on the agenda is item D1, and I can speak for this board in saying that it is our favorite part of any board meeting that we go to. This one I think is going to be even better than the rest just because of the group that you brought to us tonight. So I would like to introduce the school site showcase. It's going to be Barnett Elementary School this evening.
We got some crazy Barnett energy here tonight. Are you excited for this?
Absolutely.
Yay! Okay, I'm Jen Dodds, principal at Barnett, and we're so happy to be here today. And before we start, I wanted to draw attention to the art boards because we have our lovely artwork up for everybody to see. And then I'm gonna start us off by, could we start the slide presentation? And then I will invite our fabulous kindergarten team to come up and lead our amazing readers.
Tonight we're going to talk about how we've learned to read in kindergarten. Are you ready? Stand up, sir, and you're going to look right at them. With our U-Fly reading program.
U-Fly helps me learn my letters. U-Fly helps me learn my sounds. U-Fly helps me to write my letters. U-Fly helps me learn the hard parts in words. U-Fly helps me read books. U-Fly helps me to write stories.
And then all of our kinders, come here. All kinders, come here.
Mrs. Dillon, are you sure these are kinder students?
They trick us every day. One said she thought she was a teenager up there.
Gentlemen are going to talk to BizTown, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you.
My name is My name is Jackson Smith.
And my name is Nathan LaFuse.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jackson Smith, and I was the mayor of BizTown. As mayor, I gave 3 speeches. The most important was the opening speech, where everyone swore an oath and became citizens of the BizTown for the day. As I was elected as mayor by my fellow classmates, I enjoyed the responsibility and learned to balance leadership with empathy. I also learned the importance of being fair and forgiving. One of my favorite parts of being mayor was deciding who would receive the BizTown and Citizenship Awards. I listened to the CEO's recommendations and ultimately made the final decision. This was one of the most difficult parts of my role as there were so many great candidates. But in the end, it was also one of the most rewarding experiences of my position. I want to thank all the supporters of this BizTown event. I truly believe this event should continue to be supported in the future.
Hello, I'm Nathan LaFuse, and I was the CEO of the U.S. Bank at BizTown. When we first walked through the doors of BizTown, the room was big and looked like a mini town with businesses we recognized. It was my responsibility as the CEO of the U.S. Bank to make sure businesses paid back their loans. If the CEO of another company did their math incorrectly, then I had to deny their loan request. As a citizen of Biztown, we had to be careful about how much money we spent and make sure we did not go into debt. We also had to work in order to earn our paycheck. Although it felt like we worked an 8-hour day, we actually only worked 1.5 hours in total. Thank you.
Okay, next up from Barnett, we have our safety patrol. I can speak to this one because I'm in charge of safety patrol at Barnett. It is a lot of work, and these kids come out every single day, rain or shine. We're out there in the pouring, freezing cold rain, saying good morning or saying goodbye to all of our students and parents at Barnett.
Hi, my name is Julia Breen.
Hi, my name is Allie Prather.
Hello, my name is Julia Breen. Tonight we will be talking about Safety Patrol and how everything works. In the morning and afternoon, we participate in Safety Patrol. Safety Patrol is a great program to help others and become independent. We greet the parents and children and help the kids get out of their cars. After we make sure all the students have safely exited their vehicles, we say goodbye to the parents and motion for them to move their vehicle forward and leave. We are fully aware that our role in the parking lot is to make sure everyone is safe and the program is moving safely and steady. We always make sure that the parents are driving slowly and safely in the parking lot, and it is overall safe, fun, and positive environment for students and parents alike. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Allie Prather, and tonight I'm going to talk about the equipment we use during Safety Patrol. For example, we wear neon green reflector vests to show that we are a part of Safety Patrol. When we walk out to the parking lot, we bring little green men with us to put on the sidewalk to show people to slow down on the school premises. We have several signs on the sidewalk and around the area that say to always drive safely and slowly because they are on our school campus and there are children around. We use hand motions to direct the cars forward when their children exit or enter the vehicle. After the cars clear up and everyone has gone home, we gather the equipment, clean up, and are allowed to exit the building and go home. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great night.
Now I'd like to invite some 6th graders up to talk about 6th grade camp.
Thank you. So we took our 86 graders to Cuyamaca in February, and they had a great time. We got some great pictures to show you, and I have 2 students that are going to share a little bit about their experiences.
Hi, my name is Kai, and we spent 4 days in the Cuyamaca State Park. 6th graders were assigned a hike group and spent the days exploring the trails. My group used binoculars to spot bird life. We also hiked through meadows, chaparral, and even visited some areas with running water. One activity was working in groups to build a shelter with fallen branches. It was a great opportunity to enjoy the outdoors.
We went on an all-day adventure where we packed our lunches and hiked and explored. At lunch, some kids took the hardcore challenge, eating an entire apple, seeds and all. I too ate the entire apple. We also had the chance to do rock climbing or archery. This experience was fun and memorable.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase all the wonderful things, or some of the wonderful things we do at Barnett. We're so proud of all of you, and I want to say a big thank you to all of the staff who came out, our dedicated, passionate teachers, and also to the parents that facilitated bringing your kiddos. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So fun.
Great job to all the students. Thank you to everybody that came tonight. A special thank you to this staff that came here tonight to share their Barnett experience with us. And we are also graced with the presence of Mrs. Dillon, the District Teacher of the Year last year. And Mrs. Brinker, who is Barnett's Teacher of the Year this year. Sorry, Miss Brinker.
That's right. She's not married yet. She is
I know.
engaged. Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. What a great presentation. Yes. So do we know anything? Small world. So we had a math teacher. He left us to teach something else, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, and everything.
I do. I didn't know it was wrong, but I did vote for it.
Yeah.
And I'll introduce her here in just a sec.
Yeah, he was like upper level.
Here?
I don't know if it's a woman.
Robert,
Yeah.
how are you, man?
And Holly's still here, so. Good night, Bobby.
All right, now we're going to continue on with tonight's board meeting. Before we do continue on, I would like to introduce a member of our audience. Tonight we are joined by Palomar Community College board member Holly Hamilton Bleakley. If you could just identify yourself. Welcome and thank you for coming. Next item on the agenda is a report from the student board members.
One.
Faith, you're on. You're carrying the water for everybody.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Faith Walsh, and I'm the student board representative from Ramona High School. Thank you to Dr. Thurman, President Perfect, and the RUSD board and cabinet for having me here tonight and providing me with the opportunity to represent Ramona High School. Prom for juniors and seniors are in 2 weeks, on May 3rd at Wicked West, and it starts at 7, goes till 10 p.m. RHS has many things, from 2 DJs, photo booths, 360 cameras, and even dinner and desserts. Ramona High School's baseball program played at Petco Park at the Padres Stadium as they won 1-0 versus Valley Center. Ramona fans showed up in support of our Bulldogs, and Miss Rod got to throw out the first pitch. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs sold over 800 tickets. As we came back from Easter weekend, ASB hosted an event called Egg My Yard, where ASB provided Easter eggs in the yards for that day. Today is Earth Day, and RHS is celebrating by changing our habits. We want to encourage students to recycle their food waste to do our part and help our planet. Today was the first day for students to recycle on campus. Juniors finished up CASP testing in ELA, math, and science. RHS had a participation rate of 95%. Meanwhile, Sterling Bryant stands at number 3 in state by 1/100th of a second, and he recently broke the school record again on Saturday by 1/10 of a second, which he now stands at 13.86 in hurdles. And Parker Doomey's PR is now 15.6 in pole vault, which means he broke that at the home meet versus Valley Center, and he stands at 19th in the state, while he's currently in second place for Ramona and is shooting for the record. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Faith. Great job. Any questions for Faith? All right. We would love for you to stay, and we encourage you, but if you do need to leave for studying reasons or whatever, we understand. Next item on the agenda is item D3, which is a report from the California School Employees Association, Chapter 733. All right. Doesn't look like there's anybody here. So we will move on to item D4, which is a report from the Ramona Teachers Association. Thank you for coming tonight and welcome.
We want to thank you so much for this opportunity. We want to start by saying that we are very grateful to have a tentative agreement after this tough year of negotiations. We are hopeful that you all vote to approve this agreement tonight. Ramona Elementary had its first spring carnival in over a decade, and it was extremely successful. Check out the photos from the PIA staff member booth on our RTA social media. RHS NJROTC placed second in their first ever Raider Challenge at Fallbrook High School. We also want to invite you Thursday evening to eat at the VFW anytime between 5 and 7:30 p.m. Get spaghetti dinner and support our RHS ROTC program. And I just read today on the flyer, if you can't eat in, they do support to-go boxes. Ms. Moran invites you all to stop by and view the display case and wall in the front office of RHS that are currently showcasing some new paper sculptures from Sculpture 1 students and new colored pencil drawings from her Drawing and Painting 1 students. Earlier this month, Ramona High School's junior class had a special visit from the Japanese internment camp survivor, Jack Kubota. Jack spoke of his life before, during, and after internment. Students were able to ask questions and learn about how Jack's resiliency allowed him to be successful despite all of the challenges he faced in his life. RHS hosted the district-wide 31st annual CNC track meet, the special education track meet, coordinated by Mrs. Matthews and Mr. Back, our district APE specialist. There was a record number of participants as well as peer volunteers. It was an amazing day to be a Bulldog. Check out some photos on our social media website. Mount Woodson fifth graders got to go on a field trip to see the San Diego Symphony last week. They got to watch them perform. Before the field trip concert, the students completed an 8-week music curriculum provided by the symphony, focused on melody and harmony, as well as learning the different instruments in a symphony. During the performance, students were invited to sing along and do body percussion to songs they practiced during the curriculum. It was an amazing experience for the students to have.
Hanson Elementary's new recycling program is going well. Our student council has formed the Green Team, a group of over 30 students who rotate to help each day at lunch to make sure all of our waste goes into the correct bins. Hanson Student Council is also offering a family movie night on Friday, April 25th, where they will be showing the movie Up. Okay, you're gonna have to help me with this. Mrs. Paricio, sorry. Shared that her first grade class at James Dukes is publishing a book. Each student contributed a page and an illustration. Their publishing party will be at the end of this month. We are excited to see the finished product. You can see some photos on our RTA social media. Montecito ASB sent 200 springtime egg ornaments to homebound seniors in Ramona, their third service project for this year for the Ramona Senior Center. They also hosted a very fun and silly candy egg hunt on campus after school on Thursday before leaving for the weekend. Students are serving our community while having fun, and again, see some more photos on social media. Amazing news. The broke stage curtains in the PA are getting fixed. 6 of the side curtains were just replaced last week in time for the upcoming RHS Spring Dance production this weekend. And the new main curtain as well as a backdrop has already been ordered and is being installed this summer. These renovations will not only improve the experience for all music, theater, and dance students at RHS, but also anyone who rents and utilizes our PA Theater throughout the coming years. Thank you, RUSD, Mrs. Rodriguez, and 2D Electric for making this possible. The 90 RHS dance students are incredibly grateful. And I know my mom and grandma will be too.
Absolutely.
The RCC PTSA and staff worked hard to do an Apex fundraising event, culminating in a fun run. The school raised over $21,000 to be used to upgrade the playground areas. They also had an NED yo-yo fundraiser that was a huge success and inspired students to practice their yo-yo skills. Over spring break, a group of Montessori and MVA kids traveled to Sacramento and San Francisco on a California history trip. And today is Bus Driver Appreciation Day, so we want to give a special thanks to all of our bus drivers for all they do to help keep our district thriving and moving.
Thank you.
Nice retort.
Next item on the agenda is item E1, which is public comment. I do have a request to be heard card for 2 agenda items that we already discussed on consent. I would like to invite Kim Newcomer up to address, to give us her comments on item H2 and item H3.
Hello. In December, I had reached out to the district to get some information about some spending that we had done, and I haven't gotten what I wanted to get. I wanted to know exactly how much money we spent on the lawsuit with the voting stuff. I also wanted to know what the expenditures were for the board. I would just like to know what we spend each month for the board. And I was told that I could just, which I'm doing right now, I'm going through this and seeing that there's a meal for the Board of Trustees and staff for $390.74. I don't see a date on it. But if you want, I can go through that. Or if there's an easier way to go through and just what are the expenses that the board has every month. I would love to see that. Last year, you guys all went to the California State Board of Education conference. And I don't think normally everybody goes. Normally just a couple people go. Last year, you guys all went. So again, I'd just like to see what all of these expenses are. And I hope it's not a mystery. I hope I can get that information. Do you need me to write it down? Are you going to tell me to just go through these documents? If that's what it's going to take, that's what I'll do. But I will need a lot of clarification, you know, because I'm looking at this and it's not just real easy to go through here. But I'll do that if that's what I need to do. So I'd love to know, my representative, if you want to talk to the other people and figure out how to do that, that'd be great. Anybody else want to help me do that? I'd sure appreciate it. Thank you.
If you would like, please feel free to email me. We can set up coffee or something, and I can explain to you that this is a volunteer board. There is no compensation. There are no benefits provided. We have...
Does anybody get the health benefits?
No.
Did anybody sign
No.
up for the health benefits?
It's not even an option for this board.
We waived it years ago.
Yeah, we took board action removing that as an option for board members, probably 3 years ago.
We could probably bring it back. There is state statute that allows for that, but we don't here.
Yeah, nobody on this board does it.
I remember being in the board meetings where you guys did approve that could happen.
Well, that was,
And
must have been prior to 3 years ago.
I do understand it's a volunteer board.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of perspective.
There are...
How much do we spend?
We are provided a meal for every board meeting, and we do attend one conference a year. So there's your answer. If you want the individual dollars, I'm sure they're available in our budget.
Okay, so you're going to tell me to look through these sheets and find them. I'll look for hotel and mileage, meals, conference costs. Somehow I'll work through this, and maybe I just need to ask Tori.
And we're not
what
hiding
items.
it. It's publicly available.
Yes, it is publicly available in the minutia.
We study that minutia every board meeting.
You live it.
We do.
You live it, so you know how much you spend. It should be, you could run a report. I imagine that you could run a report that says, I want everything under this particular fund, because
There
that's the
is
one
not a
set
specific
aside.
fund for board member costs. It falls in the superintendent's budget.
Mhm.
I mean, we could identify the superintendent's budget and make that available to you.
Mhm.
But, you know, what you're asking for is quite a bit of staff time.
Okay, so there's no.
If you want to call
It's
me, if
just
you want to
this.
email me, we'll set something up and we'll have a conversation about that. How's that? I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah, you will tell me what that number is, or we'll just have a conversation about it.
Let's decide when we have that conversation, what the next step is.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll go through month by month. So these are available in each of the agendas for every month. And then I should be able to look for it. This one is listed as AS/SUPT. And it says meal for board of trustees and staff. So I'll look for things that look like that.
Superintendent's budget,
Like-
SUPT.
And I'll see things like, it'll say things like hotel and mileage and things like that. It should say things like that.
let's
Yeah.
meet, and I'll answer your questions then.
I was just asking the finance person
Okay.
if it'll,
This,
because it is.
this
listed
really
right
shouldn't be a
now.
back and forth right now, so I'm inviting you to reach out to me, and then we can do the back and forth then.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate your back and forth.
Absolutely.
That's like the first time in, what?
We normally
5 or
don't
6
do
years?
it,
Yeah, thank you.
and I probably shouldn't have tonight.
No, that's good. You can interrupt the board. It's not against.
It's not an efficient use of time. All right, moving right along. Next item on the agenda is item E5, which is a report on the graduation and promotion dates and times.
Good evening, board. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, board members. It's that time of year where we get to celebrate students across the district as they promote from elementary and middle school and graduate from high school. It's a great time where the schools are buzzing with anticipation of all of these ceremonies, and we get to commemorate this special time with their families. This is an information item tonight, just giving you the dates and times of all of these events, and the superintendent's office will be in touch with each of you regarding details for any events that you might be interested in attending and available for.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for staff on this item? All right, next item on the agenda is item F6, which is a report on pilot of instructional curriculum for ethnic studies, ELA course units 2 and 3.
Good evening, board members. Coming back again with additional units for our English Language Arts Ethnic Studies course is again an information item tonight. We have both of the units, Unit 2, History and Migration, and History and Migration, a novel study that the board was given earlier this month for the board-approved course back in January. And these will be available once we start the pilot of instructional materials next school year in August. They'll be available online, and we'll have the complete units there for everyone to see. It'll go through the typical pilot process where we have DAC, DLAC, school site councils, all provide feedback, and it also gets added to the instructional materials survey as well. This is an information item, just letting you know that the units 2 and 3 are completed. And again, like we talked about last month, since we are building this curriculum, there will likely be iterations as we bring it back during the pilot process for the final component.
Thank you.
So are questions allowed?
Sure.
Okay. So how many teachers are going to be doing this pilot?
I don't have the answer to that question yet.
I think there's some answer. Somebody is willing to give me an answer.
We don't have a master schedule built out yet, so we don't know how many teachers will be piloting it yet. Right, we don't have a finalized master
you.
schedule yet, so we don't know how many teachers will be piloting these materials yet.
Do we know how many students are going to participate in the pilot?
As of right now, I do not have that number.
Is it to be one class of 30 or it's going to be 100 students?
That will depend on what the state does as far as whether it's a requirement for graduation or not.
How many students are normally involved in a high school pilot for other subjects?
Every student, we get one class set of books for the classroom, and every student in that particular course is involved in the pilot.
So usually it's just one class?
No, it's one class set of books that goes into a classroom, and every student that enters that classroom that takes that course pilots those materials. We have electronic books for our students in a pilot so that all students are participating.
Is the student participation going to be on a voluntary basis?
That is to be determined based on what the state requires.
Maya, could you speak up a little bit, please?
So the page for our agenda says that the materials are available for review at the district office.
Yes.
They are not.
They are.
Where?
They will be in the hallway. when the pilot materials go out for the 25-26 school year. And if somebody wanted to see them right now, they have them linked in the board agenda on the website, and I would be happy to print them a copy.
So while we're discussing those as information items for in March, in April, and in May, those units are not available for public review until September or so, correct?
No, as soon as we close out the 24-25, so you'll see tonight there's books that are coming back for approval, and next month there'll be books that'll come back for approval. Once those have finished cycling through, then all of the materials that we know will be piloted for the 25-26 school year will go out on the table. It gets confusing for our families if we put too much out at once, and we need to live in the certain school year that we're in right now. So currently what you'll see on our website or what you'll see in the hallway are the 24-25 pilot materials. When we finish with the 24-25 pilot, which will likely be in May, I think we have one more set coming in May, we should be able to put everything out after that May board meeting once those materials have been approved. And once all of the ethnic studies units have been presented as an information item and we actually have a complete curriculum available, then that will go in the hallway as well.
Because I was confused, this page said are available, didn't say will be available. So I was under impression it was available now. So it is not.
They absolutely can be, and they are on our webpage through the board agenda.
Well, it's not searchable. Whoever does not, everybody knows. Nobody actually knows that it's in March or April agenda is a link, where it is a link. So when people go to our Ramona USD website to look for ethnic studies curriculum, they don't know.
So do you have a suggestion or a request?
Yes, to make it searchable somehow. So there's a search box on our website. So
if you search for ethnic studies, the FAQs and all of the materials for ethnic studies will pop up. As soon as we add the materials to the website, those will pop up also. And if you also search for pilot of instructional materials, we have a Google Doc that gets updated every time we bring new instructional materials for pilot to the board. The very next day after it comes to the board, it gets added to that document on the website. And if in the little search engine you type pilot, that page will pop up for you.
Thank you for providing that.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And will all those units be reviewed by multicultural committee?
Absolutely.
So there are going to be more meetings with this committee?
Yes.
More meetings to review all the units?
There's one unit left. I believe that they haven't seen. I'm gonna defer back over here because I did have 2 units left that they need to see. 4 and 5. So units 4 and 5 the committee still needs to see.
So there will going to be more meetings then? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, and there are some concepts that were inside those units, for example, constructivist. I'm not familiar with this concept because it was contrasting constructivist versus liberated. And it's something new to me. So where is it coming from? Because
so can we have those questions submitted in writing to the superintendent and instead of popping them on staff tonight?
Okay. Also, I was just concerned that if we don't get this process transparent and make all those materials available to the public in both forms, printed and electronic, because just the printed form alone doesn't do justice. There were 97 embedded hyperlinks in Unit 1 alone.
So I take exception to your intimation that the process is not transparent, because I think it is. I think, so I would appreciate if you would say, in your opinion, it's not transparent, because I differ, I believe it has been transparent. So I think that is an accusation that is unfair to staff.
And I had concerns about the book that's been discussed in Unit 3 because I discovered that this book has been pulled and challenged and taken out of circulation by numerous school districts and libraries across the country since
So
the year
we
2009.
will have an opportunity to vote on that when the curriculum comes before us.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
For clarification, are you speaking about the part-time Indian book?
Yes, part-time Indian.
The
for
board
Fargo
approved
language.
that book as core curriculum on March 2020. So this board approved that as core literature. back when we had our last English language arts adoption. Shortly after that, we started working through each of the texts that the teachers were interested in that were relevant to the state standards. And so the Ramona Unified School District's school board approved that book in March of 2020 as core literature. So that one has already been approved by the board, and that's why it was selected to be in this curriculum.
So I think maybe it's not time to review that list and maybe bring it back to the board as an action item to review all those pieces of literature, because those before my time, what I saw that it's was pulled for references to alcohol, bullying, violence, sexual references, profanity, slurs, N-words, F-words, anti-Christian,
So
pornographic.
if
That's what the
anybody
book
on the
was pulled
board
for.
would like to see a copy of that book for review, please just reach out to the superintendent. It's not a bad idea to bring this
List.
reading list
Yeah.
back to the board for review. So we'll try to get it on a future agenda.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, if she's calling a specific book out, if you all want to educate yourselves on it, just reach out to superintendent and he'll make a copy available
I
to you.
think based on what Maya just said, I'd like to read the book myself.
Make the request, brother.
I'm making the request.
Ditto.
Okay, Maya, still your floor.
Still my what?
Floor.
Oh yeah. So I was just so concerned about this book for so many negative things. And I
Okay,
was
we've
wondering-
addressed that.
Yeah. So my question is, I wouldn't want to see replacing all those classics of 10th grade English, that Shakespeare, Alan Poe, Hawthorne, ancient
So we're
Greek
going to
authors.
bring the book
For this
list
book.
back
Yeah.
for review, but they're currently approved reading material for the district, taken by board action. So we'll have to bring them all back, or bring the list back and review it as a board. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you. When do you think? Like next month?
Not sure. Next month's not enough time for this board to review all those books. We're going to have to give notice, give the,
It's like a whole
a lot of
summer
notice. It's a
project.
long list. And
Very long.
yeah, so it would be unfair for us to give this board a list of 500 or 1,000 books, and I'm assuming that's the case, and say, let's have a meaningful conversation about these books in 30 days.
Okay, another suggestion. Since we are piloting this course in the fall, can we just take action on this particular book? Because I don't want to give this book to kids if we find it so, I don't know how to made it on the list. So I would like to take action on this particular book so we don't damage our youth by
Okay, let's
reading
make
this
the
book.
request, but not have the conversation. So the request has been noted.
Just for this book or for the whole list?
Your request was just for this book, correct?
Yeah, for this book
Yeah.
before September, before the school
Your
starts.
request has been noted.
Yeah.
Maya, would you please repeat the name of the book that you are most concerned about?
The Absolute True Diary of Part-Time Indian.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dr. Thurman, could you just distribute a copy to all board members? Thank you, sir. We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments for staff?
Yeah.
Roger's all you.
Well, first off, based upon what Maya said, just directed the staff, if there is a substitute for this book that she's talking about, that would be great to know about it. If there's something that you could put in its place that would be able to have the same discussion with students and come across the same meaning of what you're trying to convey. I think
Let's
that would be
review the book.
I'm just
and
saying-
we might not need a substitute, or we might. Brian will get us this book hopefully by sometime next week,
We now have our summer reading.
right?
Then I'm just suggesting that if there was something, it'd be good to know about it.
Perfect.
At the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying
But
right
we don't
now.
know it's worth removing yet.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll have to have that discussion, but.
And you may
it's-
come back and love it,
I don't know.
right?
I haven't read it.
Neither have I, sir.
Yeah. Then the other thing is, I think what would be really helpful, because I think the work that's gone into this is really well written. So I want you to know that I'm really grateful for the amount of work that's gone into it. I think for the board it'd be helpful just to know how everything is being balanced in the curriculum, because like Maya's pointing out this, and then you can't have two books. You're studying one book, you're doing a deep dive into that book, and you're learning from that book. So then what's the next part in the curriculum where you're doing a deep dive? So it just comes across balance. Maybe if we had some kind of mapping to show that, that'd be really helpful for us.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. I run each unit through AI, and then I run them all comprehensively through AI and ask for it to not only tell me, are we hitting all the core groups that are required within the ethnic studies curriculum, but I ask it for the to match learning objectives to standards. I ask for it to find the holes in any of our standards if we have any. I go through, and so that matrix that I have that I build out after each unit, I'm happy to share that with the board and show you, because it gives the specific examples of the balance between the groups. For example, there is a unit where there is a little less balance because it is a novel study, but then you see that balance come throughout the whole curriculum as a whole, just like it would in the traditional English language arts class when we're studying about something else versus something else. It all ends up balancing out over the course of the year, but I would absolutely be happy to share that matrix with you. When it comes back and something is missing or unclear, then that feedback goes back to the team looks at it, then kind of figures out where are we missing something, or maybe do we need to add more balance, and then it comes back again. That's why you'll notice that sometimes you get another memo that says, we need another week before you get it, or we need two more weeks, because we're not just putting it in front of you the first go round. It goes through many eyes and even AI multiple times to get that feedback and ensure that we're adhering to our board policies. Everything gets shoved into AI to help us really look at it, and then that gives the first blush, and then of course everything gets read personally and checked as well. But I'm happy to share that matrix with you so you can kind of see that. And if you're looking for something more than that, then we can figure out what that might be.
I'm not really looking for anything, just to have better understanding
Of that balance.
Yeah, and
Sure.
then I noticed in Unit 2 it specifically mentions the historically underrepresented ethnic communities, which we're focusing on American Indian, Asian Pacific Islander, Black, African American, and Hispanic Latino. But those are not all of them, of course. And so those are the ones that we've chosen for our community, correct?
They're actually the ones that are called out by the state that we are required to include in the curriculum. And then when we go into that deeper dive with our own students and they're looking at their families or their ancestry and all of that and our community itself, that's where we kind of talk about our own community and our own students. But those core groups are the ones the state calls out that we must include in our curriculum.
Okay, so when you're, just so I have a pretty good understanding how this is happening. So when you're developing this curriculum, you're specifically focusing on these specific areas to cover, but it's not limited to that. We can cover anything that we want.
We could cover more if we wanted to, yes.
Okay, because I think it'd
as
be,
it's relevant to our students.
right. And so I'm just kind of thinking when we're talking about ethnicity, because it's really ultimately ethnic studies, so that includes everything, including religion. So I actually took this class in college, and so when I took it, we literally kind of went through every single group from the beginning of our country all the way through that were underrepresented, or racism or other issues, prejudices that happened to them. And it started right in the beginning of our country. It happened with the Irish, it happened with the Catholics, it happened with the Germans, it happened with the Chinese when they came. And so I was just
Japanese.
the Japanese, yeah. I mean, we just talked about that.
Right.
So I'm just like, I was just curious. Even though that each student is going to be talking, I was just wondering how full range it was going to be, and I mean, that's what I was hoping for. And then the one I wanted to mention is the Barona Indians,
Mhm.
we should be talking about the Kumeyaay and the Indians. So I was just curious the plan, that's all.
Yeah. Great.
I have a comment. I read all 4 units in one day by design. Thank you for thank you for providing the information. I read it all in one day to get a real feel for the big picture. Certainly it points out America's sins, and America is not without sin. But we've made a great effort over 200 years to make things better. Okay. What I did not appreciate, what I was uncomfortable with, was there are places in the book where the student who reads this is encouraged to act on social justice, to become a social justice, for lack of another term, warrior, encouraging the individual student to become an activist. And that I read several times through the different units. That I'm uncomfortable with.
Can I ask you a question?
I think all students need to learn American history, good and bad. But I'm not comfortable with them being encouraged to be a social justice activist. Yes, sir.
Why is that a bad thing? Because I'll expand on that. That's how we established this country, was that very
That's
social
how we
activism.
fix problems.
And who's saying that's not the process to fix today's problems? Because we're still not perfect. We're a long ways away from it,
I agree.
right? Yeah, I'm not sure that social activism is a bad thing. It's a bad thing when somebody is demonstrating against something that I hold dearly, but that's their right. You know, it's that person's right to burn that flag. I disagree with it, vehemently disagree with it, but it's their right to do so. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to stand around for it. But, you know, speaking out, this conversation that we're having, this is our right to disagree. So I'm not sure that, and I don't want to get on a soapbox. I'm sorry, it might be too late for that. But social activism is not necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion.
Okay. I don't disagree with you, Darren. I don't disagree with you. But the social aspect, the social activism things that I see on my TV at night with Tesla.
Despicable.
That's despicable.
Right?
That's social activism.
That's
But it's
illegal
taken,
activity.
okay, but it comes under social activism, illegal or not, and I'm not comfortable with encouraging
But those
social
people
activism
standing-
because there may be a very negative aspect to that depending on the individual student.
But those people standing in front of that Tesla dealership, that is their right, and I may agree or disagree, but I'll support their right to do so. Those people conducting illegal activity, lock them up.
All right, okay, well, we agree there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we all have common ground on this. It's just we need to be reminded what, you know, social change came about, and the United States was born out of this activism that we're discussing right now. And I'm sure there were people who thought they were a bunch of hooligans then. As long as they agree with me, I'm all for it.
A different perspective.
Right?
Okay.
So I appreciate that, but I also appreciate this conversation, this discourse back and forth.
So Darren, I just remember something. I think I vaguely remember, and I could be wrong, but I think that it's something in our policies or bylaws that we can't teach activism or social activism in our district. But I have to look it up.
Love to hear it.
It is.
But we also have to be careful and not stifle the First Amendment. I mean, that is held dearly.
The word is promote. We're not supposed to promote it.
Because I remember
So-
I came across it when I was preparing, when we were voting on history books.
So if we are in violation of that board policy, this is the perfect forum to discuss it, and this is the perfect where we get as a result of this conversation is where we need to be as a board. If we're violating board policy by promoting, right, social activism, then we need to do one of two things. We need to either remove it from the curriculum or change our board policy. And that should be done by an action of this board in, the most of democratic fashion after, a meaningful conversation. And I'm open for it.
I think
Brian, if you could have staff research that board policy and make sure that we're not in violation. How's that? And if that's the only thing that comes out of this meeting, man, what a successful meeting we've had so far.
Well, just one other thing to kind of echo what you were saying is that when we talked about this curriculum early on, we talked about that we wanted to celebrate ethnicities and cultures. And so I would suggest that maybe in the units we have a celebration activity of some sort. I think that would be really wonderful. And then, because we do this in our language classes, but we could do that here, I think, really kind of smart, where you can eat the food of that culture, you can come in, you can be in the dress of that culture and stuff like that, which I think would be really wonderful.
So
I found it.
As Leslie said, this is a work in progress, and hopefully we get it better the second iteration, and even better the third iteration. And the way we get improvement is through this meaningful conversation right here. Maya,
I found it, yes.
Something?
Yeah, I found it's our board policy called Controversial Issues,
Can you-
6144.
6144.
Yeah, so what it says, political opinions are for students to examine and determine for themselves. Instruction shall be imparted on how to petition the government and other entities for a redress, including lobbying and protesting, political activism, and the activities of protesting and lobbying are reserved for students to practice outside of the class syllabus.
Okay, so Brian, if you could just review that policy and make sure that you and staff are comfortable with the fact that we are either within the guidelines or the boundaries of that policy, and if not, we see that we adhere to it, or bring it back for conversation. Because, and if you could also, Brian, send that board policy out with the update this weekend. We can all review it and see if we want to bring that board policy back for conversation, or if we're okay with it the way it is. But I'm telling you guys, I'm very, very pleased with this level of conversation to make sure that we're doing it right. Because that, at the end of the day, that's what's important, is that we're doing it right.
Well, I don't think very many boards have this kind of discussion. And I think it's important. That's why we're here.
Right? And I'm happy to be part of it.
Yep.
So I hope by doing all those things, reviewing policies, activism, protesting, we don't lose our focus on education and academics. That's what we're here for, because if we lose this focus and try to do too many things that not related to academics, then we'll see, I don't know how we can teach literacy.
It depends on your definition of academics, because civics is part of our accepted academics.
Right, absolutely.
And civics, this is civics. We're living it right now. And we're modeling it for our community. This is Civics 101, right here.
Are you asking everybody to come to the board?
Dan, were you done?
Yeah, I was. And Darren, I don't really disagree with you at all. I'm a social activist.
Right.
I'm chairman of the American Liberty Forum.
There you go.
And we promote conservatism. Okay. But my concern was that, like those students at Harvard that are anti-Semitic, that's social activism as well. So there's good, there's bad, and there's stuff in between. But I just don't think it's a good idea to encourage people of this age group to go out and become social activists. I want them to be a little more mature. Huh?
If you agree with their view, would you encourage them to join the Ramona Liberty Forum?
I would not discourage them from coming and learning what we present.
But
How's that?
That's outside of the classroom.
And it all happens.
It's outside of the classroom, it's exactly right.
With our viewpoint. I said it in jest, but there's a little bit of truth in every little comment like that says, as long as you agree with me, we're full speed ahead. But we also have to identify that just because they disagree with us doesn't mean they're wrong. They just disagree. Listen, I've got 2 university students right now that are about as opposite on the spectrum as I am. But man, I still love those kids, and I support their right to voice their opinion, even though I disagree with it.
Okay.
I think the main part of the policy was really to prevent having groups assembled or people following TikTok dares and all this kind of stuff that hurt our campus and interfere with our instruction. That was really the whole idea. And along with that, we made very clear that we do not tolerate racism or prejudice of any kind. And so I think these things are important, and I think this curriculum, we're trying to get it right. So I think, we should be talking about this and what does it look like when we're presenting things to students, and students are going to have ideas. Students will feel like, especially individual students, based upon their heritage and background, they're going to feel like there was an injustice, and then they'll be able to get that out of them and talk about it, and it's going to be really healthy to talk about those kind of things.
Would it be cultivating victims?
I'm not talking about victims. I'm saying that for some, it's going to be a relief to talk about it. It's
Roger?
going to be an opportunity for healing, and I think it's important that we do talk about it. And for those that, it could be that your heritage was part of that mess, or maybe part of making it better. So you never know, but I think people can come together and unite as one and become one Ramona family, right?
Do you remember the high school guest speaker? I'm sure Antoinette remembers it. From PETA, came in and addressed the classroom, and then one of the students sat in the front desk or the front row with a T-shirt that had the outline of a side of beef, identifying which cuts came from where.
Those, yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you asked for it. It's okay.
Good times, good times.
Right? Probably a few gray hairs for some staff members, but you know what? Nothing wrong with that in the grand scheme of things. He's not hurting anybody.
I think what Maya just said is kind of important. She said this mentality of victimhood. I think that the curriculum should not be doing that. It should not be saying, oh, I'm a victim, look how woe is me and all this stuff. It shouldn't be that way. It should be the other way around, that we learn about ourselves, we learn about here's our heritage and how can we make things better. How can I be a better example of my heritage, and how I can persevere through the challenges that I currently have, and those kind of things. And so that's what I see ethnic studies. I mean, I know that my family had a lot of struggles, like every family. They had racism going on in my family, and you probably wouldn't think about it, but it actually happened. So,
hatred hits everybody in one shape or form.
Well, it's interesting because all it has to do with certain timing in our country, and things happen. And it's really surprising. I mean, my family came here in the 1850s, and they were in Wisconsin, and they could not say that they were German. Because if you did, it was not good. So it was just, you wouldn't really know about that unless it was part of your family and you knew. They would not mention anything because the prejudice against Germans at that time was so bad. And then, of course, during World War II as well.
Yeah, every ethnic group has dealt with it in the history. Now, it may have shaped your family.
It did.
But you're proud. You're proud of your heritage, and you're not less of a person because somebody in the 1800s was discriminated against.
No, you grow and you move. You learn from those experiences, and my family learned from it, and those things get passed down and how they learn from it. And I think that's what this is about, because some people are dealing with some very, very difficult things that they're trying to find answers to. And we can help our youth find answers to those. And I think this is why I brought up celebration. We need to celebrate at the same time, because there's so many good things. I mean, we have so many different cultures that come together to create the American culture. Why can't we be part of that? I have so many friends across the border in Mexico. They all say, well, you're really Mexican at heart. And I'm like, well, I'm not Mexican, but I understand what you mean. And that's a sentiment that they give to me, because they feel like I care about them, and so that they have included me in their family. So I think that's kind of what I'm saying, is that we can, in Ramona, have a different outlook. Whatever we think this is supposed to be by the state, we can make it Ramona, and Ramona can care about everybody.
Here's our chance. You're right.
It would be nice if it was talking about ethnicities, if that's what we were studying in those units. So what I saw in the units, very little mention of ethnicities. What I saw mostly was identity, diversity, inclusion, which is, that's what it was ripe with this ideology that's often viewed as an extension of Marxist ideology. And this may conflict with both federal directives and provisions of the California Education Code. So there's so little of anything ethnic in those units, and so much of everything else that's DEI ideology.
Yeah, but we can redefine what DEI means.
Yeah,
And I've defined that many times in this boardroom, that it doesn't mean what everybody else is saying it means. What it means here is that everybody gets an opportunity to learn, and they get the things that they need so they can be successful. So everybody has that same opportunity. And that doesn't matter what color their skin they are, or what religion they are, whether they're tall, big, whatever, you know, it doesn't make any difference. We're going to make sure that they have the opportunity and provide the environment for them. And I think that's what it's about. And so other, you know, institutions may define that differently, but I think we've made it pretty clear that we are not going to be prejudiced against any kid for any reason. We include all of them, period.
This needs to be reflected in our units.
Well, I'm glad that my comment has generated such a great discussion here today.
Right?
I'm very glad about that. But there's another part of it that I did not mention that I need to bring up.
Okay.
I agree with you on social injustice. We need to fix it. The other sentiment that I came away in one day after reading all four of these is not only that you know, America was involved in slavery, we mistreated the Indians, there's a long list. But what I came away with is a sentiment that America is a bad place. America is a bad place. That is what I'm very uncomfortable with.
I didn't draw that conclusion, but
It's right.
I don't disagree with you that if that's the conclusion, I would not support it. I did not draw that conclusion. So, but you know what? Incredibly valuable conversation. We're not going to fix it tonight, and this is a work in progress that we hope to get better and better every time. And then it's also important to remember that we're not voting on anything tonight. And we do not write curriculum. At the end of the process, we will either have the opportunity to approve or not approve said curriculum. So, Dawn, do you have anything before we move on?
I do not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Guys, I know we spent a lot of time on this item in conversation, but I think it's incredibly valuable. If we have an opportunity, Leslie, would you or staff like to reach out to any or comment on any of the commentary that we've had tonight?
I believe.
Hang on a sec.
Not at this time, thank you.
Hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. I would like Leslie to address the question and call upon staff members if she thinks it's appropriate.
Yes.
Thank you.
I believe the writers and the team that is in the room would love to have their voice heard in this process. I think sometimes when you're writing curriculum, right, like we read what a publisher writes and we take, I hate to say it, 25% of it, and 25% of it is good, and 25% of it is thrown out the window, and 25% is forgotten about. And so when your heart is writing about something that you really care about, and that doesn't come across in the way that you intend, right? So when they hear Mr. Summers say, maybe some of his comments, I think for them that might be hard to hear, because in their hearts that isn't true, that they think America's a great place, that they think we are balanced, that they think lots of different things are thought. I don't want to speak for them at all. I have no idea what's going on in their minds, but I could hear that, and I know their hearts, and I know how hard they've worked on these units, and I know the sentiments that have been shared about making sure that we do tell the stories, right, of these people, and we do present it. They're very familiar with presenting it in a balanced way, and that they're very passionate about that. And so I don't know if tonight is the right time to do that or not. I would leave that up to the board to see if you want them, or if you want to wait till we have all of the units and then they can kind of do a walkthrough, or maybe a board workshop on all of the units, or I don't know. I'm just throwing anything out there. I totally support if the board wants them to speak tonight, to absolutely to have them have their voice here and know where their heart's at, and maybe that will help when you read through Unit 4. I leave that up to Mr. Drum right now to make that decision, but I absolutely support if they have something to say for them to say.
Okay. Dr. Thurman, you want to weigh in here?
I've attended some of the meetings, and I just appreciate the comment about their heart and their passion and the work that's gone into this. And I also recognize, Mr. Summers, that there are things that happen out there that can be viewed through different lenses based on our experiences. I know this team worked to be aware of that. No one can really control that all the way, but I might recommend that we hear from a couple representatives on kind of a general overview, and then the board could decide if we want to dig more into that. I think a study session and those kind of things is really critical. I think from my own experience, no matter how it comes out, there's always going to be pieces that we're going to be able to be critical of. I mean, that's how America started, with a lot of critics, along with all the good. And I think I agree with Mr. Drum, just coming from my own background of a grandfather who was shot, and he told me specifically about burning the flag, that was one of the reasons him and many of his buddies were shot, for the freedom to do that. I hate it, truly. I could say that's something I hate because I love our country. But I'll just never forget that piece, and that was from a lot of people's really hard work and heart and effort and their entire lives, as we know, and we have people here in the room who've put their heart and soul into writing this, that I think it would really be good to hear from where they're coming from, and then the board could decide from that tonight on maybe a study session or something down the road, because I'm very aware of the work, dedication, commitment, the passion that they put into this, the tough conversations they had about how students will view some of these materials. All of those things have been discussed in depth.
Anybody else on the board want to weigh in on hearing from members of the audience on this topic?
I would very much appreciate hearing from the staff who put this together. And had I not said it earlier, I recognize, having read it, the amount of study and effort and heart that they put into it. I recognize that.
Okay. Don, your thoughts?
I'm fine moving forward with the people who are present speaking to us on this item.
Everybody else? Good?
I'd like to hear.
Okay, we'd like to hear, so I'd like to invite Leslie, whomever you think is the most appropriate, or if it's the group, I would just ask that everybody on this board remember that we do not write curriculum. We will either have the ability to approve or not approve, but we can't get too far down into the weeds on the process, and we just get the final product and get to say yes or no.
However, if it is, we are allowed to comment on why we take a position.
100%.
Individually and collectively.
And hopefully they'll, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent will be taking notes. And at the end of the day, the goal is to be successful and have this board support the product, because you and I are going to have to explain this to our neighbors. And really that's the last thing, the last item in the process is yes or no. And that no means maybe go back and tweak it, or go back and throw it all out and start all over. And that would be unfortunate. So I think it's important for this dialogue to go on. So Leslie, I'll turn it back over to you. How's
Sure,
that?
absolutely. I think one of the things as Mr. Summers was talking about activism, I'm like, did I miss something? Did I, you know what I mean? Because I have that lens as I'm reading it, and that those varying degrees of what you think is, or we each think is that appropriate level of getting students excited about what they're learning about, and that line of where it could cross into something that could be destructive, right? And we don't want to see that destruction. And so I did I'm like, quick, ChatGPT, tell me, you know. And so pull up anything that might be considered activism. And it pulled up, you know, write letters that advocate for community inclusion, you know, and it just went through and gave, and I still, as I read those, I'm like, okay, I think we need to have these teachers come up who wrote it, so you know where their lens is coming from. So I'd love to invite Nicole and Julia to come up to the front. Jeremiah will give you a microphone to just, why don't you just kind of share kind of that 30,000 foot view of this curriculum, you know, like where we're coming from as we're building it, and maybe speak to the concern I think that on the floor right now is that social justice or activism that could go, that could cross the line, right? That could go down that keying the side of a Tesla. Like we're definitely not advocating for that in our English classes.
Leslie, is there a leader of the group, or is it they're just all one group working as a team, or how?
They're all one group working as a team. In the Education Services Department, Edie Chapman, who's our teacher on assignment, helps keep them organized and corralled, and helps write the curriculum also a former high school English teacher. And then Nicole and Julia are our primary writers on the English curriculum, in addition to Edie.
Okay, thanks.
So thank you on behalf of the board for being here tonight. Thank you on behalf of this board for your efforts and everything you've done to lead us to tonight. It is appreciated, and we are just want to, you know, ensure that we can support the final product with a yes vote. Because it would be tragic if we took a 180 on the night of the vote. So thank you from the bottom of my heart and our hearts for being here tonight and for what you've done. I turn it over to you.
To answer your question with my version, I think we're all leaders in this, and we're juggling this amongst all the other responsibilities that come with educating students actively in the classroom at the same time. And to the questions that come with whether we're leading them to think or act in such a direction that we might not hope as a group to lead students to, it is a challenge in the classroom to get students to think and to think for themselves, and then to choose to invest in their learning and activate their knowledge beyond the classroom at all. To think that their math matters, to think that their English class matters is in and of itself a challenge. Reading, writing, speaking, and listening are the 4 core aspects of English class, and it goes directly with what we're doing in the curriculum we've developed. Reading, writing, speaking, and listening is what's involved in what we are doing in this room right now, which, dare I say it, like you mentioned though, is a level of activism. We are engaging in our community in this moment as a group, and I think it's worth remembering or noting that that's a way that we could define our current behavior in this room, right? And I think that's the question that we're proposing to students is, what is the world we live in, and how can we learn to engage at a level of communication with reading, writing, speaking, and listening, where we're thinking about ourselves and we're thinking about others. And that's the core of the ethnic studies values that we were not uncomfortable at all applying in a Ramona Unified School District classroom. Because thinking about ourselves, others, and the world we live in, thinking about it critically, where we're asking questions, thinking of it where we are learning to read, write, speak, and listen with professionalism and decorum with others, that's just a skill that could be lost if we don't encourage students to do so. And that's embedded in every unit. And that's embedded in our current English classroom too. And so I just like to propose something that I've been thinking throughout this process, which is every unit that we've set forth so far, more than 50% of it is made up of material that we already currently work with in our English classroom already in my Ramona High School classroom, for example. We are using the tools and the skills that we already use. So we're not throwing things away to then replace with something else that's less than. Respectfully, I would argue that we are replacing with something else that is amplified, allowing for students to care about what they're learning, and if they disagree with others, to learn to vocalize that disagreement in a way that's professional. And that starts in the unit where they're learning to think about who they are, and they're learning to write about who their community is, and it's embedded in the curriculum, in my strong opinion, as someone who helped facilitate the writing of it. And so when you're asking for opportunities to celebrate, I just want to get up there and annotate 5 different sections in every unit where there is an opportunity to celebrate as a culminating action in the classroom. And then when you're wondering about moments where we might be pushing students to consider that America is a bad place, I am wanting to stand up there and think that we are trying to encourage them to think about the country they live in and how it is so valuable that so many different people live here and choose to live here, and throughout its history have chosen to continue to strive to make it better, whether that's through civil disobedience that exists in the civil rights movement or board meetings like this, which is its own version of social activism if you choose to define it as such. Which comes to the question of defining things throughout this curriculum. That is a question that I unfortunately have to acknowledge is going to continue to be a problem, because that's going to continue to be a part of America. Who defines what as what, and then how can we enter in respectful conversation about it? Which is why we are luckily able to boast free speech in that way, so we can continue to clarify things with each other and teach our students to do that, because I don't want to enter a world where they forget that that's their freedom to do so. And so with defining things and learning how we continue to define things, we are not defining things for students. Which is why in the first unit, when the question of identity comes up, we are asking them to help themselves formulate their own identity in that unit. So even though words such as ethnicity and race and personality and identity come up, it's so that they know that those might be words that they choose to use to define who they are. We're not telling them define ethnicity this way, define race this way. The entire purpose of how we've constructed the curriculum is from that lens of students are constructing learning throughout the process without us prescribing an agenda. Because that would feel unfair to how I currently manage teaching English in the classroom, and also that's just the core of inquiry-based teaching, where you're teaching them to be thinkers of themselves and for themselves, which means there are going to be disagreements that they might have with the way information's presented, and then we get to dialogue about that, and it's a comfortable space to do so. Which is why I'm grateful for all the different questions y'all bring up, but I want you to know that it's in good faith that we engage with this as educators that want students to conduct inquiry-based learning where they're asking the questions. But unfortunately, with the way curriculum is structured, there is a push to give you guys as much information as possible so that you feel its transparency is out there. So sometimes we have to tell you words that they might bring up so that they can pursue the definitions of those terms, because that's the learning process in the day-to-day English classroom, respectfully. Even yesterday or today in my classroom and last week, that's how it is in the moment, right? It's a process. But as we're developing curriculum and asking ourselves all the questions that we think the students might ask, maybe that we think you might ask, or that the state is asking us to consider, and that we ask in our classroom already as we're teaching very similar texts already that have a respectfully, a history of being banned, like we currently teach of Mice and Men and To Kill a Mockingbird and Fahrenheit 451, and those are all on the core list, and all of those have been historically banned many times in many school districts. We have to facilitate respectful, evaluative, analytical conversations for 15 and 16-year-olds in the classroom on a day-to-day basis. And so as we give you these documents with, respectfully agreed, way many hyperlinks to click through, too many to print, I respect your questions and I want to continue to receive them if it's going to further the questions that students are allowed to ask in the classroom and construct their own learning with the facilitator of a teacher, so it's a safe space. That's my spiel. That was a lot longer than intended, but it's,
Well done,
I've
Al.
been a part of a few of these meetings and I like hearing what you have to say, but I want to hear more questions, but it's hard not to respond to them in the moment. So hopefully I touched some different corners of what was brought up this evening.
Before we move on, any question, Mrs. Shotwell, correct?
Yeah.
Any questions for her specifically, based on her
No,
comment?
very well said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
I feel like she covered it pretty
Ditto.
well. But if you guys ever want to go through a closed session, go over any of the units, I'm happy to do it with you. I want to be as transparent as possible.
Thank you very much. Your passion shows and is appreciated. Okay, are we ready to move on? Thank you, Leslie.
We
And
have
thank
a-
you to staff for your participation here tonight. This is the process. This is how the sausage is made right here. And this is how we get the best product available. So, moving on. Next item on the agenda is item F7, which is the approval of the new course of study, Careers for Criminal Justice for Future Bound.
Yes, Board, you had previously approved this course. It's an online course through our Apex online platform, but it was a one-semester course. Apex has adjusted this course to be a year-long course. Our future-bound students will be taking this course once approved, and they will get a year of elective credit. This is a discussion, possible action item. It is on the same online platform that the board has already approved as our provider, and it does not have a mirrored course. We do not have a typical in-person course to match this, so that's why this one is being brought forward separately.
Is that,
The recommendation is to approve the course as presented.
Roger?
is that college preparatory elective for UC? Is that what that is? Or is it just?
This one is not a UC course.
So it's just for graduation credit?
So notice some of the standards are in bold. I also noticed that it used to be a one semester class, now it's a year long. Does it mean those standards in bold are what's making it longer?
No. The bold are like, if you'll notice, you'll see like, for example, 2.0. You'll see the 2.0 is the bold, that's the header of the standard, and then you'll have 2.1, 2.2, 2.4, 2.6. Those all fall underneath that larger umbrella of a
So
standard.
also 1.0 is also in bold, and there's no.
Correct.
Okay.
But none of the smaller standards were included by the course.
Okay, it's a larger standards. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Also, semester 2, 3.1 says other roles in criminal justice. Then it says SWA, DEA, ICE, and so forth.
Did you say semester 2?
Yeah, course content and course content.
I'm looking at semester 2. Oh, 3.10? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Okay. Yes?
I don't think you're looking at the same place.
Other roles in criminal justice,
Yeah,
SWAT,
okay.
DEA,
Yeah.
ICE, private
So is it the whole
detectives?
list?
Those are just the
Examples.
examples.
Examples, okay.
Yes.
Because there are some
Uh-huh.
other agencies too.
Yes,
Okay.
no, those are just the
Okay.
examples.
That's it.
You covered all of the possible legal careers there are. So how you could do that in one semester, I cannot imagine. So 2 semesters is appropriate.
And it will really help those students have that full year elective course.
Any other comments or questions for staff? All right, is there a motion?
I motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item F8. This is the approval of instructional materials for reading difficulties risk screener for grades K through 2.
Yes. Board members, I just love to shout from the rooftop that Ramona Unified wins again. We have been using this screener for many, many years, and most recently the state of California is requiring that all school districts adopt a screener, a reading screener for grades K2. It's a requirement. We have to have it done before June 30th. And it just so happens that only, I want to say it's 3 or 4, I think it's 3 though, were actually approved by the state to be used and adopted. And Ramona Unified's been using Dibbles all along. And so it is just, it's one of these things where every other district who hasn't using Dibbles is now piloting and trying them all and doing this whole arduous process. And we just get to bring it forward and share it with you and say, we've done it. It works well with our students. It provides the information we need for our staff. We don't need to do a pilot because essentially we've been piloting it for the last however many years at all of our schools. And so we are bringing it forward as an action item to be adopted tonight officially so that we can check that state of California box that says we have adopted a reading screener.
Thank you. I'd like to move approval of Dibbles as our reading difficulty risk screener.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any comments or questions for staff? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Leslie, one quick question. Is this the screening process where we put the dream team together and they
Dibbles Cadre.
Are we going to be able to put the band back together for that?
They will be continuing to be back together. And fun fact about this particular requirement from the state, it did come with, in fact, I think we just got the funding today, about $21,000 to provide the professional learning associated with, to have all of the staff trained. And so we get to expand that training that we've already offered to our staff, to more staff, and to train the current staff, the current dream teams we have at some schools.
Can you identify the members of the dream team?
Teresa Grace,
Bobby
Plow. I'm not sure if she's doing it this year. Linda Marthas was on it for some time. I think Lynn Chasting even did it for a little bit. I don't know all of them right now off the top of my head. You're calling me on the spot.
Please
But they're
express our
phenomenal
thanks to
at
them.
Barnett.
Yeah.
Yes, that dream team.
Many years of educational experience, donating their time to come back and give back to us. So I didn't want this to go by without an opportunity to call them out and say thank you.
They're wonderful.
All right, so moving right along. Next item on the agenda is item F9, which is the approval of college and career access pathway agreement with Palomar College.
Yes, I am so excited to be bringing the CCAP, as we lovingly call the agreement between Ramona Unified and Palomar forward. This will bring dual enrollment courses onto the RHS campus during the school day. This is just a phenomenal labor of love.
So much.
We have been really doing concurrent enrollment in the past, and that's where our students are taking it, but we don't really have a lot to do with it other than approving it. This agreement allows for our students to take it during the day. It's at no cost to our students at all, not even the books. And so we have American Sign Language, which is going to help because currently we only offer Spanish, so that's going to give us a second language other than English to be taught at RHS. History 101 and 102, which would be like the equivalent to our AP History. We selected these courses because we had so many students already taking History 101 and 102 through Palomar outside of Ramona High School that it just made sense for us to start with the courses that we knew were going to be successful and that our students were successful. And then we added in Counseling 110 and 145 because these are ones that as students are starting out on their college career, whether it's at community college or university, that are really just that core foundational skills that they need to learn as they're stepping into those roles as a college student. So we'll have 3 offered in fall and 3 offered in spring. They'll be during the regular school day. Both history and ASL, American Sign Language, will be in person. The counseling will be an asynchronous course. There will be later tonight during HR, I'm going to put my Mr. Newman hat on and I'm going to present the MOU. I'll give you a little front loading of that. This contract that you have here tonight is between Ramona Unified and Palomar, and it's what we're responsible for, what they're responsible for, and it gets reviewed each year. The MOU is our agreement between Ramona Unified and RTA, and what that needs to look like to ensure we're protecting our contracted teachers and staff on our sites. So tonight we bring this forward as an action item and a huge celebration. These courses will take place during 3rd period and part of ELT. So we worked it out with the bell schedule with Ramona High School, and so any student who takes these courses, their 3rd period course would be on Palomar's side. Ramona students have to take 4 courses currently, 4 courses before they take a Palomar course, so that we get 100% of the ADA for them. There are ways to figure out ADA and shared ADA, but that just feels like that's a little bit further down the road for us. We're going to roll this out slowly and methodically so we can make sure we're super successful, and then if we decide that that's a direction we want to go and allow them to take Palomar courses as a part of their 4, that is allowable, but we're just not there yet.
I almost can't say this fast enough, but I would like to move approval of the College and Career Access Pathway Agreement between Ramona Unified and Palomar College.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments for staff?
Yes, thank you so much for your work on this. I was involved with some of the initial meetings that we held, and very enthusiastic about this, but with those meetings, I quickly learned how complicated setting this up was going to be. And it's taken a little while, but you got there, and thank you so much for sticking with it.
Yes, and to
I see we have,
Yes. Yes.
Polly, thank you as well. I'm very excited about this. Thank you.
So this is thank you for staff. This is really a victory for our students.
Absolutely.
I know some of the people on this board, their kids have taken Palomar classes and benefited greatly from it. And this managing stress and well-being could be college life 101 because it's a big change I know it was a big change for my 2 daughters to come out of the room where they've lived their entire life by themselves. They didn't have to share a bedroom. They were fortunate. They go into a dorm. And there's just a absolute culture shock. And if we can help address that culture shock for those who are interested in moving on to college life, man, let's help them out as much as we can. So having said that, we have a motion and a second.
I have some questions.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes. Speaking of those people who took some Palomar classes, I was one of them. So I took Palomar classes that when they came back to Ramona in 2016, and they took place at the Ramona Community Campus. I don't know if they still do, but what was happening when I observed who was in class, not only Ramona high school students, also MBA students. There were also young adults who recently graduated high school. There were regular adults like my age. There were even a middle schooler. So now I have seen that the classes that were taught were wide range. There were some English classes, oral communication, computer information systems, also ASL, English American Sign Language, U.S. history. So my question is, for example, does it mean that Palomar College is no longer going to hold classes in the evening for the broader Ramona community? What's new besides Palomar bringing classes to Ramona High School? How is it going to affect classes that are currently being held at Ramona Community School?
It's not going to affect them. We selected these, and then we looked at other courses to be the evening courses. So we'll continue to offer English. We're actually looking into bringing math, either elementary statistics or pre-calculus. We're going to continue to try ethnic studies. That was something that was tried. Computer programming was tried. We have quite a few different courses that are available depending on whether they're fall or spring. It is a back and forth with the college to determine which departments are willing to come up to Ramona during the day or in the evening. But we took a really good look at the students and what courses students are taking already at Palomar and tried to not take away from what was happening in the evening and just tried to make it a value add for Ramona Unified. The classes during the school day are not open to anyone outside of Ramona Unified. The classes at night will continue to be open to the community, and we did not want to take that away from the community.
Okay, so that's why I wanted to make sure that still we are going to have the same evening classes at RCMS campus as before.
Yes.
Also, had you answered some of my questions. Let me just go through the list and see which ones I still have outstanding. So who came up with a list of courses for RHS? Or did it come from RUSD or did it come from Palomar?
RUSD.
RUSD. Okay, so just a moment.
With the exception of the counseling course, I believe Palomar added that to the conversation, and then we felt like that was a strong add, so we supported that.
Which counseling course?
Both the counseling 110 and 148.
Just a moment. Yeah, it also says in paragraph 5.2, eligible students may enroll from underrepresented groups and so forth, higher education, first generation college students, low income, etc. Is it only open to them or to everybody?
It's open to everybody, but these programs are I don't want to say targeted, but they want to make it clear that it is for those students as well, because you often have your students who do concurrent enrollment or take those nighttime classes or even your AP classes. They're the ones that already have that those extra supports at home, or they know about community college, or they know about this opportunity, and this is an opportunity for us to start educating our students and offering it during the school day for those students who don't maybe have somebody at home who knows all about getting ahead and saving money by taking these courses. So that's why they're called out that way through Palomar, so that they're a target audience in order to kind of help break that barrier for them and get them into college.
So there's something, some language about parental permission, parental consent form.
Yes.
So that's for everybody who is taking
Yes.
Palomar classes, parental consent. Okay.
Yes.
What physical education is talked about in paragraph 4.6, like PE? Why would there be a separate clause of not providing it? What are they
Because
talking
it
about?
used to, I believe the legislation just changed, but I would have to double check they didn't used to allow it in a CCAP agreement. They didn't used to allow physical education as a component of a CCAP agreement. I'm not sure if that changed. I know there was several iterations of this, and just in January there was new legislation that passed that may allow it. We're not allowing it. It's not something we're doing on our campus right now, but I would have to go back and reread to verify that. But it was something that wasn't even allowable in a CCAP. That's why it's called out separately.
Paragraph 3.4, it's quoting Ed Code 76004 U1, and it says about aggregating data by gender and ethnicity. So when I checked Ed Code on that, it's actually not U, it's T.
Okay.
Also, the same clause of this education code, it has A, B, C, and also has D, E. I don't know, this paragraph, clause 3.4, only quotes A, B, and C of this Ed Code paragraph. I was just wondering, why not everything? I don't know. What's the logic behind it?
Because that comes from Palomar's lawyers, and they are telling us what they have to do.
Okay.
As a part of the, and then it tells us our responsibility for what they have to do.
When I read paragraphs 10.3, 10.4, does it mean that only Palomar College can claim the student head count in these classes for the purpose of receiving the state funding? Just to confirm, our RUSD would not be able to include those students in our ADA calculations to receive per student funding for the district. Is that correct? 10.3 and 10.4. The language was quite convoluted, but that's how I understood it.
So that's just education code, and it's basically saying that one of us gets to claim the
Yeah.
student.
So who?
We are.
We are?
That is why they have to have, it's not that we're getting the 4 hours of the day for ADA for those students, so we get our full amount of ADA for instructional minutes.
It says the district agrees and acknowledges that Palomar will claim apportionment for the students enrolled in courses under this agreement.
Correct, but Ramona Unified has their for us to collect the full amount of ADA for our students, they need to take 4 classes. So for example, my daughter, who's a senior right now, she only takes 4 classes. We get the full amount of ADA for her, even though she doesn't have a 5th period or a 6th period. So next year, I'm going to make up a name, Sarah is going to take 4 classes in Ramona Unified, which means we get that full ADA for Sarah. And then Sarah's also going to take a 3rd period Palomar class. Palomar can claim that class, but we get our full apportionment for our student for our full-time.
Yeah, because the 10.4 says Palomar shall include the students enrolled in a CCAP agreement course in its report of FTES for purposes of receiving state apportionments when a course okay.
Yes, so there's a whole spreadsheet we have to do, and they're registering and keeping track and all of those things. So you can kind of see why we're not going fast as we roll this out and sharing apportionment or doing anything like that. And even though it's on our campus, it's going to operate in the same way that we did concurrent enrollment. So it would be as if, like, with your student or my student took a class in the nighttime class, right? It's operating ADA-wise just as if my daughter took her night classes.
Because Palomar was always getting their
Palomar was
apportionment
always
for those students,
correct.
and we were as well for the day.
Correct.
Right.
Appendix B says books and instructional materials are specified below. Have a concern that the actual list of books only says to be determined for all courses except ASL, American Sign Language. So I find concerning that how can we vote for books that haven't been determined yet.
You won't be voting for these books. These are Palomar courses, not Ramona Unified courses.
But it says district chooses books and materials somewhere. So
No, we cover the cost of those materials using lottery funds. We do not choose the materials. Just as we wouldn't choose the materials in the night classes our students take. The difference in this, in the night class versus the day class, is we do cover the cost of the books. Our students who take it in a night class, they have to cover the cost of the books. But during the school day, our lottery funds can be used to do it.
I think Palomar that chooses materials, but I think still the district has to approve them. That's what I saw somewhere.
No.
No, we don't have to approve
We
it.
do not have to approve them. It's a Palomar course.
That's Holly's job.
Also, it's not directly related to this agreement, but I was just curious. Since there's no lower age limit for Palomar Palomar students, would the kids who took Palomar classes in middle school or earlier be allowed to have a high school credit for that? Because it counts as a college credit, which defies common sense if it counts towards college credit but doesn't count towards high school credit.
Correct.
Okay.
After they promote from 8th grade, so the summer between 8th grade and 9th grade, they absolutely can get high school credit. But before they promote from 8th grade, they do not get graduation credit in Ramona Unified.
Well, and this solves a problem that I've seen over the years, and most of my kids, maybe all of my kids, took Palomar classes concurrently with Ramona High School or Mountain Valley Academy. But they had me taking them back and forth, and they had me supporting whatever they were doing and leading the way for them, but not all of our students have that. This gives those students the same opportunity that my kids had, and maybe some of yours as well. Definitely levels out the opportunities in a really positive way.
I thought you just opened the door and told them to walk to class.
No, I literally sat outside one class with one of my kids the whole semester because, well, we'll talk about that later. That kid and why. But yeah.
So
and there
we-
were some things, you know, back in the day, right? Those
Yeah.
it was at night, so there were adult students from the community as well. So I really needed to keep track of my kid. That particular class took a long break after dark, right? So where's my kid going to be hanging out during that time? A younger student at the time needed some supervision.
So we have a motion, a second. Maya, are you done?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Any other comments or questions for staff? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks to staff. Thanks for Palomar for partnering with us on this. This is a win-win for our students, and that's all we care about, really. So thank you very much. Is there any objection to me moving the agenda around a little bit and getting to item G3? We've got some staff members here that are have to be back at work tomorrow early. Any objections to just changing? Okay, next item on the agenda is item G3, which is approval of revision to RUSD instructional calendar for 2025-26.
Yes, thank you, President Drum. We have our OPMS principal here, and she will help kind of explain this and help answer questions. But OPMS plans to transfer to trimesters starting in the 25-26 school year. This shift aligns more closely with the transition from elementary to high school, as elementary schools operate on a trimester system while high schools use semesters. So the trimester system serves as a good middle ground. So we have Mrs. Lindsay Benedetto here. If you want to come on up and just sort of give us a brief summary of how this came about, and then board, any questions you might have. Lindsay is here and available. We appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Thank you for considering this. So the plan is to move to trimesters upon your approval. Moving to trimesters allows more time to cover content before closing a grading period. It gives students additional time to demonstrate proficiency, submit late work, and make up missed assignments. It also provides teachers with more opportunities to adjust their pacing so we have the best possible student outcomes, and address areas where students may need additional support before we close out that grading period and then we have to move on. This change supports the Ramona Unified School District collective commitment to accelerating student learning by focusing on purposeful skill-based instruction and offering more time for differentiation and scaffolding supports for our students. As a result, we expect to see more, improved student outcomes. Additionally, the Special Education Department currently reports progress on goals 4 times a year. With the transition to trimesters, they will report progress 3 times a year, which aligns more closely with the rest of the district and what other special education teachers are doing district-wide. This change will also provide more time to gather data, refine goals, and prepare students for the transition to high school. This change from quarters to trimesters was both supported by RTA and CSCA.
Thank you.
Any questions for staff?
Make a motion to approve.
That easy, huh?
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Sorry you had to wait.
Thank you so much. That's okay. I appreciate it. I'm going to take it. You guys are best. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, listen, we appreciate what you're doing at the middle school. If this is your recommendation, I'm all for it.
Yep.
All right, we're going to move back to
G2?
G2, which, guys, if I'm messing this up, please keep me straight. Item G2 on the agenda is approval of short-term staff permit for special education teacher.
Yes, thank you, President Drum. The board action is required to approve the submission of short-term staff permits for teachers who do not currently hold a valid California credential. In the, for this case, for both teachers, it's for within the special education realm. Approval of this recommended action will ensure that all conditions are met for payroll and assignment requirements. Approval of this short-term staff permit process will provide a one-year temporary authorization while district staff assist the teacher in meeting all credentialing requirements set by legislation and enacted through the CCTC. This enables them to get into an intern program. If they are not able to do that at the end of the year, the short-term staffing permit expires and they aren't able to move forward. Recommendation is for approval of these. We've seen a number of these. These help our staff who have the desire but don't have the specific credential yet to be in school while they're going through having a full-time position and getting benefits and salary and all of those things, but learning as they're going.
I move approval.
Second.
I have a question.
Bring it.
How long does it take for them to get the special education credential?
Short-term staffing permit is only good for 1 year. Usually at the end of this time, they're eligible for an intern program. And then that intern program through the county is 2 years that they do, and they can get reimbursed for that through SDCOE.
So it's like a 2-year preliminary they have. So we won't have to do this if they get into the program. And then after the 2-year preliminary, then how long?
The 2-year intern. It's a 2-year intern program. They're operating with an internship, an intern credential.
Okay.
And then after that second year, they're eligible for the regular preliminary credential upon completion of the successful completion of the internship courses. Okay. So it's not an easy role. It is. They're very busy. I met a couple of teachers at James Dukes that have been through it in the past, and it is grueling.
So like every night they're taking classes?
I don't know if they're every night, but they have work to do every night for sure. But they'll have classes at least once a week and sometimes twice a week, depending.
Any other questions for staff? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item G5. This is to approve AB 1200 disclosure cost and approval of tentative agreement between the Ramona Unified School District and the California School Employees Association and its Ramona Chapter 733.
What about G4?
Did we skip G4?
Hey, that's why I asked you guys to keep me straight.
Sorry.
I appreciate it. Let's
Yeah.
do G5. We'll come back to G4 if that's okay with everybody.
Okay, yep.
Because I already read it.
Wild here.
Because I already read it, and I don't want to have to read it again.
Yes, thank you, President Drum. The district, as we've heard earlier, has reached a tentative bargaining agreement. This particular agenda item is the agreement, addresses the agreement with CSEA. There is a letter attached here from the county office approving this financial plan on how to do this. The agreement, to summarize it, includes a 2% salary increase retroactive for this school year. There are a few other things here that it has impacted. You've got a lot of information there about the actual agreement and about the financial arrangement. If you have any questions, I know that Mrs. Tori Long will be able to help with that, as she's been in touch with the county regarding the AB 1200 process. So our recommendation is to, after reviewing the costs and the tentative agreement between Ramona Unified and CSEA, that the board would consider approval of this AB 1200 disclosure document.
So to summarize, AB 1200 is basically our certification that we can afford the cost of this agreement.
Yes, yeah, it is sort of a third party check, if you will.
Got a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Last chance for questions.
There's a question. Yeah.
Okay.
So I understand this agreement increases salaries, correct? So is an increase?
We're not voting on the agreement. We're just voting on this specific item. We'll get to the agreement in a couple of items, a couple of agenda items.
Yeah.
This is the certification that we can afford this agreement.
So the agreement, you'll have the opportunity to vote on or approve or not approve. And
It's
This would be
G5?
because the next one we have is for RTA.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is, just to approve the AB 1200 disclosure. This is not
Yes.
approving the MOU.
Well, no, not the MOU. There's an MOU on G4. I mean, yeah, G4.
Mhm.
That's an MOU just for the rest of this school year. But G5 is the approval of the AB 1200, which outlines every penny that the proposal will cost. And Daniel and Tori's had to spend a lot of time on that worksheet that's included here to give to the county. They review it with a fine-tooth comb and then get back to us with the details in that letter.
Okay.
So, yeah. Thanks.
So maybe I'm looking at something else.
So go ahead and
Look
ask
at
your
G5.
question. I just want to make sure. We're on G5 because
Yes.
I messed up the,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
order.
So that's so this agreement includes a change in compensation. Okay. So this increase in compensation, will it make the district lay off more employees when we have to make the budget cuts?
We are not proposing any layoffs in the coming year right now at all. We have a 3-year budget that has shows our minimum requirement still at the 5%, a little bit over the 5%. We do have some budget cuts that have to be made in that budget, the way it's presented in the 3rd year out. So those could result in lots of different money-saving activities.
That's what I was saying. It says salary increase 2%. That's what I was asking. In 3 years or whenever we have to do budget cuts, if we increase the salaries now by 2%, doesn't mean in 3 years we'll have to lay off more employees than if we did not increase salary by 2%.
You used 2 different terms, budget cuts and then you went to layoffs. So yes, for budget cuts, we're always monitoring the budget and how to save funds, but no to layoffs because we don't have layoffs planned.
So we're not going to lay off any employees when we have to do budget
Not
cuts?
in this coming year. We would have already had
No,
to
I'm
start
saying in
action
3
about
years.
that.
Well, not
we don't know that.
Okay, we don't know.
We're-
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's not something that we plan right now.
So I think it says this agreement is in full force until the year 2027. And then it also says something about renegotiation.
Something about what?
Renegotiation.
Oh,
So if,
Every year.
can it be both? Can it be in full force and also have a possibility for renegotiation?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's not mutually exclusive.
No, those 2 terms are not.
Okay.
It is in force while we're negotiating pieces. The association will bring items to negotiate. We will bring items to negotiate, and the board approves those.
Article 1 mentions transportation in the very last paragraph. But there's no Article 6, I mean, about transportation. What is it talking about? It says both parties agree to open Article 6, transportation, during negotiation cycle. Transportation like transporting employees from one place to another, or what does it mean?
So Article 6 isn't included here because it
Yeah.
wasn't addressed through negotiations, but there is an Article 6. So we're just agreeing to reopen that in the whole. This isn't the entire contract,
Mhm.
but this is noting that there's an agreement to open Article 6 transportation during the 25-26 year negotiation
What does it mean
process.
open?
To the association and the district will propose language changes in that article to negotiate.
Well, that's why some of the paragraphs are skipped. There's no 1, 2, 3. So okay, that's what I was wondering. Why something missing? But I understand. So not every clause and paragraph of the previous agreement was negotiated this time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, just bits and pieces. Yeah.
And there's a letter from the County Department of Education. Dun, 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 dun. And it was saying something about ratio of caseload students to teachers. And it was saying something that's if there's 28 or 30 to 1, then if there's 1 or 2 more, then there's going to be an aid 1 more day a week. If there are 2 more students, then like every day of the week there's additional aid. So yeah, I was curious because 1 or 2 students over the caseload of 28 or 30, it's just maybe 3 or 4%, but we are increasing spending for aids by 100%, then by 400% if we're doing twice more 1 day a week, and then 5 times more, 5 days a week, just for 7% more of students?
Yes, and that is an agreement we have with our associations so that when we go over the 28, we don't have to hire a whole new teacher at over 100,000 with benefits and salary to teach 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 students. We have this which is the G4 that we'll discuss, but that clause is an agreement we have with the association to pay our staff more, to provide sub-services, a substitute service, to provide support so that we don't have to have another full-time teacher for a very small number of students.
What if we don't find those additional people?
What if what?
What if we don't find additional teachers to come in additional day a week or 5 days a week? What if we don't find people to fulfill those terms?
We do our best, but I don't think we've ever not been able to when that comes up.
Yeah, I was
It's
just
an important part of
wondering
the
the
contract.
ratio. Yeah, because few more students are just 3, 5, 7, 10%, but we are adding 100% more of time with the additional person, or five times
Yeah, but
more
at a
time.
sub rate. That's $200 a day
Okay.
plus their minimal benefits. The trade-off, if we didn't offer that, would be that we'd have to hire a full-time teacher, which is clearly over $100,000, and that could be for 3, 4, 5, or 6 students. So it's an absolutely very beneficial financial arrangement.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
You good?
And there's, I think, last page of this letter says something. Although the district projects it will meet the minimum required reserve in fiscal year 24-25 through 26-27. Approval of these agreements will increase deficit spending throughout the multi-year projections. Are we still okay?
Yeah, because our ending fund balance at the end of the projection period, meaning 3 years out for the multi-year projections, it would be 5.69.
Yeah,
Is what it's projected to be right now.
Yeah, and it does say this number in this agreement. It says it will decrease from 17% in this year to 5.6% in 3 years, which is 3 times decrease. Okay, approximately. It's a pretty rapid decrease in reserves.
Yes, yes. We're required to keep 5, so we want to make sure that that third year out is at least the minimum. But if you look back 3 years ago, we also projected this year to be much lower. But through savings and careful spending, we are very careful and to be good stewards of those funds so that we don't get down.
So if we go this pace, then we will deplete our reserve a year later. How are we going to stop spending that money?
So what I just said, Mrs. Phillips, is if you looked at what our reserves are now and looked at what our projections were 3 years ago, you'd see a significant change just due to cabinet's efforts and really our administrative services looking at ways to save and conserve funds so that we don't end up in this boat. I couldn't tell you right now off the top of my head what we projected 2 years ago to have this year as reserve funds, but this represents zero change from now till then, other than the expected COLAs and the way the budget worked, the money that we're projected to get, but all that is, it's still two school years away. And so a lot happens between now and then. So this number
when we
will
get to this
definitely
number,
change.
5.69 in reserves, percent in reserves, we will just stop spending on this program, because if we continue spending on this program at the same pace, then we will, so we will not spend.
But yeah, if you're not
This
acknowledging
program.
anything that I just mentioned about how we save money until we get there, and we just kept spending the way that we have projected, then we would be at 5.69.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
hope
what
we
I said
save-
before is
save
that we
money.
work really hard between now and even 2 months from now to watch the budget, to conserve the budget. It's part of the job of the Admin Services Office to make sure that we don't get there. Does that make sense? 2 years ago, 2 full school years ago, I would say 3 full school years ago, I told the board we projected layoffs this year. Do you remember that? I walked you through all the process of what that looks like because of our budget situation. But we work really hard every day, every month, every quarter to monitor our budgets so that we don't get there. So we don't want to plan right now that for the skies falling before we're able to do work between now and 2 years out
So
to make
just
this change.
counting on savings
counting on talented staff that know what they're doing budget-wise to help make sure that we have a good program for our students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are those all your questions?
Yes.
Okay. So we still have agenda item. I'll entertain a motion.
I thought we did already.
I thought we did.
We had a first and a
Karina,
second.
did we?
Yeah.
Can you tell me
I was the
who-
first, Roger was the second.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
It's okay.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Motion carries unanimously, correct? Oh, thank you, Roger. I appreciate you, man. Next item on the agenda will be G4. This is the approval of the side letter of agreement between Ramona Unified School District and Ramona Teachers Association regarding Article 16, which is class size.
Thank you, President Drum. Item G4 here is an agreement between RTA and us. We've entered into a side letter of agreement regarding elementary class sizes that have exceeded the negotiated student-to-teacher class size enrollment ratio of 25-1 for K3 and 28-1 for 4-6 at each elementary school during this school year. What we're asking you to approve here is the language that expired at the end of last year that we're just moving into this year, and we need approval to allow this to stay in place for the rest of this school year, which is 32 more days. And then we've got the new negotiated agreement that we'll pick up from where this language.
I move to approve.
And I'll second.
So I just had a question about the term.
Okay. Sorry, who was the motion?
Dan was the first, I was the second.
Okay, thank you. Maya, your question?
Yeah, what's release day? Is it a day off?
Well, it's a release day to do whatever is going to be needed to prepare if they have more students in their class.
Okay. Also, the document that follows this agenda item, there's probably different documents as memorandum of understanding, but on the agenda page it says some kind of side letter of agreement. So we probably didn't get the right document, or what?
I mean, the
Sometimes we use
information
those
seems correct.
synonymously, side letter of agreement or memorandum of
So it
understanding.
says side
but we
letter of
can work on
agreement,
that.
but when I turn the page over, it says memorandum of understanding.
Right, that's why I said they're used synonymously sometimes,
Okay.
but we do like to try to keep that language clear. It says side letter on the green sheet, and on the other one it mentions MOU in several places, so.
So
that's
it's a
good-
side letter
good
of
catch.
the MOU.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You good? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Item G6, I hope.
Yes.
Looks like item G6 on the agenda is approve AB 1200 disclosure of costs and approval of tenant agreement between Ramona Unified School District and Ramona Teachers Association.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments for staff? All those in favor?
Aye.
Did you want to talk about it?
I was gonna say the same thing.
No, sorry.
Like I said that and I heard him like take a breath in. I'm like,
Well done,
did
Don.
you want to talk? Come on.
Well
Thank
done,
you,
Don.
thank you.
Okay.
All right, item G7, approval of the memorandum of understanding between Ramona Unified School District and Ramona Teachers Association regarding college and career access pathways.
I'll move approval.
Fantastic.
I got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a
Thank you,
second. Questions or comments?
It says the following courses will be offered, and then it lists 3 courses, and I wonder, are they all going to be offered every year, always from now and forever, or?
No. We'll review this every year at the end of the year, and then there'll have to be an agreement between Palomar and RUSD on what courses are able to be offered.
Because it would be nice to see more challenging academic courses like some science, math, maybe something that's not being taught by Ramona High School teachers, to not to create any competition, but some courses that are rigorous academic courses.
The content or the actual courses would have been a part of the CCAP. This MOU is actually just about our agreement with RTA and ensuring that our teachers aren't going to have any, increased class size that would go above the contracted amount or aren't anything like that.
Okay, just observation. So, towards the end of the first page, it says that RUSD staffing ratio will not be altered or affected in any way. So what I interpret that to mean is that overall, because this is being impacted by, what is it, 7 classes or something? 6 classes? That
3 in a
3
semester.
each one, yeah.
in a semester, so that can slightly reduce class size overall in RHS or RUSD? Because it says RUSD, does that affect just RHS, or does it affect the whole district?
Just RHS.
Just RHS.
And it would depend on the, you'll notice that the language in the MOU is not super specific, because until we know how many students are actually taking the course, that will be where we determine how we configure it, right? Whether we pull a history teacher to help co-teach within that class, or it kind of just depends, or if it's going to be like an NJROTC section, or there's a lot of different options that we can do, but we have been really fortunate that RTA has worked with us on this agreement to what is best for the master schedule on that campus, ensuring that teachers are not negatively impacted class size wise.
But, I mean, they've been asking for kind of class size at the high school be reduced, so this kind of does a little bit of that.
It potentially it could.
Yeah.
It says that they will remain at the contracted agreement, so
So I think
we
I
don't
see
have
it
a
as kind
minimum,
of a
but we have
win-win.
maximums. Yeah,
Yeah, I see it as a win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do too. Yeah, win-win-win. Teachers, Palomar, and our students.
Exactly.
Any other comments or questions for staff? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item H5, first reading of recommended changes to Board Policy 3580, District Records.
Governing Board, tonight is a first reading of the recommended changes for Board Policy 3580 for District Records. This policy was originally adopted in 2004 and has not been updated since its original adoption. The recommended changes are in alignment with what has been suggested by CSBA, and this information was provided to you all for your review a couple weeks ago, along with CSBA's notes on the recommended changes. These changes are based on recent legal updates and best practices related to records management, data privacy, and the retention and destruction of district records.
All right. Anybody have any questions for staff? I hear Roger going, anybody willing to make a motion?
Move approval.
This is just
Got a motion?
second.
And a second. That gave you a little bit of stall time, Roger.
okay. So, just a question. How long are we keeping records?
Which records specifically?
Well, specifically,
There's lots of records.
student records.
Well, there's certain elements of student records that we have to retain indefinitely. I can't necessarily speak to every single element, but there are elements that we are required to maintain indefinitely, and whether it's whatever medium is best, either paper or digitizing. There's certain, like the CUME files, I believe, those, if they've stayed in this district, they have to stay with us in perpetuity. They don't get destroyed.
Would IEPs be one example of something that would be indefinitely?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
I can't speak to it
I want you to say
specifically
yes also, but
because that's not necessarily in my wheelhouse in the on the admin services side of things. But I want to say that that is an element that is retained indefinitely.
So just one other thing, all records are digitized or will be digitized?
In a perfect world, absolutely yes. However, no, we do have records that aren't. I can't speak to all of them and what they are, but they we have some that are housed both on-site as well as off-site that are paper records. We are moving to digitize as much as we can, as often as we can, but digitizing absolutely everything's a huge endeavor. And, that's something that we can explore at another time. We are currently exploring that right now, the digitizing of the paper records that we still have.
Okay, and then, because this is so, like, general, this, like,
It is.
all of these records, so,
Mhm.
and I understand it's really more about how we are preserving and managing the records. However, it does talk about some of these records have a sensitive nature, so I guess, it's talking about confidentiality and stuff. How do we know, like, it just says the superintendent or designee essentially has access to them. But, I guess my question is do we have anything in here that, like, people can make public records requests for a lot of things and stuff? I mean, sometimes things are provided that shouldn't be provided. Do we want to have some kind of statement in there about it, or is it already there and I'm just not understanding it?
It's not necessarily in here other than we don't provide certain confidential information. We don't share that with the public. We also vet all public records requests through legal to make sure what we are providing is allowable and isn't something that is a highly sensitive in nature. And we do follow what's not described in this policy is the guidelines that the California Association of School Business Officials has a manual for document retention and what we retain, but that doesn't address what we disclose. But what I can say is we're very cautious about what information we give out that is staff or student information, and we don't give out personal information of staff and students.
And Roger, that last full paragraph on the first page talks about a lot of the aspects of public records requests and establishing those limits on the advice of legal counsel. So we're working with Amy to understand exactly the impacts. For example, if someone requests emails regarding soup, and we have emails that go all the way back to 96, and we've got to provide emails from 1996 forward. But if we have other, and those policies that we would get, we're working with Amy right now, would be part of an admin regulation that would talk about those a little more specifically. We right now have documents all throughout the district, as Tori just mentioned, stored from many, many years back, like hard copies and stored off-site as well. So once we have some parameters that the board would be able to weigh in on, and we could talk about the justification for all of those, and that will help us with public records requests. But Amy's very familiar with those processes.
Yeah, what if I'm just trying to think of mitigating any risk at all. So what if somebody does a public records request, and with that request somehow it affects certain people that are currently employed or that have since retired, are they notified?
Well, if it was a public record request, first Tori's office vets those through legal, and legal will get back to us to say, here's, from this department you'll need these records, these records, these records. They'll advise on what needs to be redacted and all the different components of that public records request. So we'd like to think that we'll follow all of the legal pieces so that we're not giving out information. Many times someone's asking for 11 different fields of information, and legal comes back and says they have a right to 4 of those, or 5 of those, whatever it might be. So they vet it first, and all different. There's all different kinds of expectations and rules regarding who is requesting the information, what they're saying it's going to be used for, all those things. So we get their input and then follow that input to a T.
It's just very general, so I was just wondering.
Yeah, it is as the regular board policy. Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item H6. This is the approval to award a bid for installation of a scoreboard at Ramona High School Stadium project, bid number 2025-3.
Governing, oh, excuse me.
Go ahead, Tori. I was going to move for approval right away.
Please, go for it.
Well, I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, if you must, I'll make it brief. Informal bids were solicited for the installation of a new scoreboard at Ramona High School Stadium. A mandatory job walk took place on February 27th and resulted in the submission of 4 bids that were opened on March 25th. The district recommends awarding bid number 2025-3 to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, being Gem Industrial Electric Incorporated, who submitted a bid totaling $97,808 for this project that will be paid for using neighborhood reinvestment grant funds.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Does that include the original support structure, or is it all new?
All new.
Oh, wow.
So I do have a couple of questions. So this is for the installation. Does it include the actual sign?
The actual sign was purchased separately.
Right.
This is for the support structure and the installation of the scoreboard onto that
But
structure.
in my experience, those supports go much deeper than anyone would ever expect.
Yes, they do.
What was the total amount of the neighborhood reinvestment grant, and or does this complete the grant amount?
This project itself will exhaust most of the funds that we received. We received $300,000, I believe, and it was to be used for either replacement visitor bleachers or a scoreboard or both, and unfortunately it doesn't cover the cost even close for the replacement of some visitor bleachers. So we went with the scoreboard. And we received these funds many years ago, and this should have been taken care of by now. So they were gracious enough to extend us
Things
this
have only
time.
gotten more expensive in the time it took us to get organized for this.
That is
And
correct.
this GEM Industry Electric Incorporated that you're recommending we approve, and we have a motion and a second to do so. Have we used them for anything before?
I want to say yes, and I'm familiar with them from
Okay.
prior
You've worked with
experience
them
as well.
before. Okay, very good.
Yes.
And how are we handling change orders?
Say that again?
Change orders?
I can't say that we can eliminate them, but it is our hope that there won't be any. And if there are, there will be very minimal.
So is there any wiggle room in the budget, or with this contract, will we have exhausted the funds? So if there are change orders, would it still be
They
some
can be
grant money?
accommodated.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
We good?
I am finished.
All right. And confirming Dan was the first and Don was the second?
Correct.
Or did we
I
stop
was
to hear her
first.
speak?
Tori was sick.
Okay. All right. So,
He had already forgotten. I had to.
oh yeah, it's past my bedtime. Jeez. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item H7, which is the approval of acceptance of gifts.
Targets.
Dan? No, I'm kidding. I have one last item for you all tonight. We request approval to accept the generous donation of $225 in gift cards provided by Target for the OPMS science program.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item I-1, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Drum. I'll make this brief. Just wanted to take a moment tonight to really thank our board members for their service throughout the school year. We have a couple more board meetings, but just lately it's just been front and center in my mind of the job that you guys do supporting our staff, investigating issues, and bringing perspectives to me, to our cabinet. You're all very well connected with other board members. Your combined experiences absolutely contribute to making our RUSD a better place. It's a pleasure to serve you all, watch you as you serve our staff, students, and families. I can just think of recent circumstances where Mrs. Perfect showed up for a meeting that had been canceled, didn't realize.
It happens.
Costed her about another hour probably of her time because I bent her ear for a while, and Mr. Drum gets interrupted. Well, so did Mrs. Perfect when they were board president, with my calls and emails and texts during the week. We're just very grateful for all of you and the work that you do in looking out for our staff, students, and our community. So just also really want to take an opportunity to thank all of our staff that go above and beyond in their service. We heard some of that tonight from our English teachers. A couple Saturdays ago, I got to get up to see the CTE competitions in Ontario. It was nothing short of amazing to see our staff up there. They were fried. I got up there probably 4:30. They were just wrapping up. I had about 5 hours of traffic, but they were burnt to a crisp, still cheering on the students, very tired. I did not get to see Mr. Dunn, but I got to see Mr. Grace, Mr. Jordan. Norma Preciado was there, Scott Hissam from Montecito. There were probably other staff there that I didn't get to see, but they just were all out for our students after a long day. They'd been up there Friday, and they were staying through Sunday. So our students did amazing. You'll be hearing more about that. Great awards and goals achieved, a lot of lessons learned though as well on some of the mistakes that students made and things, but overall a great time. That same day there were so many other things going on. We had ag students competing in Fresno, NJROTC, we heard a little about them, the Raider event. Special thanks to Curtis Martineau, Commander Jordan, Major Sergeant Snow. We also had a group of parents that attended Cal State San Marcos, and our DLAC parents and students were at Cal State San Marcos, being led by Cielo Villaseñor and Robin Aaron that day. It was a long day of touring the campus, but I heard it was great, just the interactions and seeing the campus and just sort of creating those visions of college attendance. Just really appreciate all of those staff members that were away from their families for most of a Saturday and doing it just because they care about our community. So very grateful for that. I want to just congratulate our new employees that are in new positions at least, Mr. Bobby Huffman and Mike Giammi. Looking forward to their contributions to our district. And last but not least, I want to express our deep appreciation for our bus drivers. Cabinet got to go up to an appreciation event today. Kim Griffin, our transportation manager, had worked with our CHP representative, Tony Bedoya, to present our drivers with certificates from the Highway Patrol on their safety and numbers of years of service. Really nice certificates. Everyone really appreciated that. She had a full table of, I think it was a potluck going on that they had organized for the drivers, and so we all got to kind of just chime in and thank them for being so dedicated to our students and their families. So it was a really great morning today. Just wishing all our students and instructional staff a productive last 32 days of school as we're wrapping up another school year. Grateful for all the planning and preparation that has already been going on for summer projects in planning for RUSD. So huge thanks to Tori and her staff for already getting those things planned, and we're just winding down. So thank you everyone for hard work and pushing to the end.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to board member reports and comments. We'll start down here. So Dan, take it away.
Well, I have been working really hard on my skill of waking up a teaching staff, and it paid off tonight. All right.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. Two things. We had an earthquake up here. I think we're all aware of it. And two things about that. I think that the behavior of the staff and the students was exceptional. And the maintenance crew responded and cleaned up what little damage there was, but it came right away and cleaned everything up. And it was a really good performance on everybody's part. And the second thing is that, you know, when that school bond failed, we're stuck with an economic situation that needs to be addressed. And we have real property in the district. And I think it's time that as a board, we looked at our real property as potential solutions to some of our economic problems. Now, we've talked about this as a board, but no one has grabbed it and ran with it a little bit. I talked to Tori tonight. I want to go and visit and see our real property in the district and get a handle on what that is, and then look at it as a potential financial solution for our problems. I think it's time that we, as a board, started moving in that direction.
So could I ask you to reach out to either Don or Roger, who have quite a bit of institutional knowledge?
Yes, of course.
And ask some questions about the history of different sites. And we've had these conversations in the past.
We have, as a board.
So and they've had it even way before I got here. Don or Roger, if you guys would be, either one of you, not both of you, would be willing to
I'd be happy
engage.
to chat with Dan about real
with Dan.
property, where we've been and where we might go.
And then it might give you some historical knowledge and answer some questions, and then we can carry on with whatever you're thinking. But they've got some insight.
But
Okay.
we could go
Valuable
visit a
insight.
couple.
I know we have property out in the estates. I don't know how big it is. I don't know where it is.
Or how usable it is.
Or how usable it is. Exactly.
Yep.
But there's questions that need to be answered.
And these questions are always good to bring back for conversation regularly. So, yes, sir. Anything else?
Nope.
Don.
Nothing at this time.
All right, Roger.
I just wanted to, first off, say that the staff and the students from Barnett coming, that was wonderful. We don't usually have all the students show up, and I mean, like, a lot of the staff members were there. It was really showed a lot of support from their school, so I thought that was
Terrible that
great.
we made them wait.
Yeah,
Little
well,
kids.
we blame Darren on that.
Kids.
I'll take the hit. Time management.
And I wanted to thank Leslie and her crew for all the work on the ethnic studies. I know that it's not hard, but I appreciate the transparency and the openness about willing to make the changes. We really want it to be right for the students, and I've written 15 courses myself, so I know how hard it can be when you're deeply into it. You really do need other people to look at it. So I think this is really a healthy process. So I appreciate that, and I just wanted to thank everybody for during the earthquake, all the staff on how they handled everything. I was actually in Utah driving down the road, and all of a sudden I got this thing. There's an earthquake, and so the first thing I thought of was, I hope the propane tank is fine. That's my first thing. So, anyways, everybody was really great about that. So, I thank you for being mindful. I don't know. It started out. It's a 6.9. Then it's a 5.2. Then it's a 4.9. And I guess it settled down to 5.2. It was like really hard for people to figure it out. But for a 5.2, from what everybody tells me, and when I got home, I had like no damage. Just a couple things fell. That was it. So I was really surprised how little it was. Yeah. But one thing I would say is that, I mean, we don't really expect anything bad to happen with an earthquake, but if a serious earthquake happened here, or a serious fire like what happened in Altadena, I think we need to really talk about what would that look like and what would we do and how would we restore everything once it's lost, because that I mean that could happen.
You know, it would be, I'm hopeful that we will be able to see what the affected districts have gone through at CSBA next year.
I would also reach out of California and talk to districts in Arkansas, Missouri, Alabama, Florida that have dealt with all of this, because
Some
in
hurricanes, yeah.
Louisiana, they've had all this happen, and it's like, I don't think we always think about reaching out because we don't see that as the same, but in much of ways, I mean, a disaster is a disaster, and we could learn from districts that have disasters all the time.
Well, and then, you know, we think about continuing the education for our students, but we also have to think about many of our staff are residents of this community.
Right.
What are they doing? You know, they're as displaced as everybody else.
Well, if something seriously happened and there was no internet and cell phones at all, that changes
How
everything.
dare you?
We're going to have to get on
Be
bicycles
prepared.
and drive around with everybody.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
It'd change everything dramatically.
Gas stations,
Yeah.
ATMs,
Right.
all the above.
It would just stop everything.
So, okay. Maya.
The U.S. Department of Education has announced a while ago that in order to continue receiving federal funding, all states and school districts must submit a certification of compliance with a recent executive order banning diversity, equity, and inclusion policies and programs. The deadline for this certification is April 24th. This requirement mandates that every school district in the nation confirm the complete elimination of all DEI initiatives, as the federal government now considers such programs to constitute race-based discrimination and a violation of civil rights laws. So has our district completed this certification? I would like the superintendent to please update the board on where we stand with that, please.
Can you do that in the update either this week or next week?
To truthfully certify the compliance, our district would need to adopt policies consistent with the executive order. For example, prohibiting biological males from participating in girls' sports, and we would also need to get rid of our ethnic studies units, as they are rife with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and are racial discriminatory. DEI ideology oozes from every pore of the RUSD ethnic studies curriculum. It's also important to note that DEI is often viewed as extension of Marxist ideology. It may conflict with both federal directives and provisions of the California Education Code. If we choose to retain those units in their current form, it may not be possible to certify compliance in good faith, which could place our eligibility for federal funding at risk. Also, I asked for an agenda item to be placed as an action item last time. It hasn't happened, so I'm asking again. I would like to have an agenda item that says eliminate graduation requirement for ethnic studies in Ramona Unified School District as an action item. Also, I'm formally requesting for administrative regulation number 6143, courses of study, be placed on the agenda as an action item for the next board meeting. So what happened in one of our ethnic studies memos, I noticed that actually this AR 6143 dated, the latest revision dated March 18th, 2025, had some language that came as a surprise to me. I find it deeply concerning that this change was made without any notification to the board and without placing the updated administrative regulation on the board agenda, even as an information item. The current version of this AR 6143 includes the following language under newly added section. number 13, Ethnic Studies, commencing in 2025-26 school year, the district shall offer a one-semester course in Ethnic Studies as specified in Ed Code such and such number in accordance with AB 101. While it's true that administrative regulations do not require formal board adoption, they can be adopted by the board, and the board should absolutely be notified of any substantive changes, especially when they concern a topic as significant and potentially controversial as ethnic studies. The board must be given an opportunity to provide input before such additions are finalized, and this situation raises several questions. So who added this paragraph 13 ethnic studies to AR 6143 on March 18, 2025? So why was this addition not communicated to the board? And were there any other revisions made to this AR during this update that have not been disclosed to the board? As stated in CSBA Effective Policy Making Fact Sheet, 5.b says communication and dissemination of the policy and regulation. The superintendent should ensure that staff, parents, guardians, students, and other stakeholders are notified about policy and regulations. This standard of communication and transparency has not been met in this case. And also wanted to share, since San Diego made ethnic studies optional, one of their board members, Michael Allman, shared an article he wrote where he said that once it's not been mandatory, they kept regular English 9 for 9th grade. Last week, the upcoming freshman class finalized the course selection. The results speak volumes. Across our 4 high schools, only 12% of students selected the integrated English ethnic studies course. At Torrey Pines and Lacoste Canyon, interest was so low that single section may not be viable. Canyon Crest had enough interest for 1 section, while San Diego Academy had possibly 3. Parents have spoken. Most prefer the traditional English curriculum that has served students well for decades. Thank you.
All right. So I'll bring this home. On May 3rd and 4th, a local church, North Coast, is going to be doing a community improvement program project at Olive Pierce Middle School. I've seen some of the work that North Coast has done historically on all throughout our community. I'd like to thank them in advance for just considering our middle school as worthy of their projects, because they do great work. Sure. And they bring out they are a force in this community, and I look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to accomplish at our middle school for our students, because they're a force multiplier. They've done so much for our schools. It's hard to quantify, so I would really like to be able to see some sort of result of everything they accomplish, and I'd be there. I've got a family day at one of the local universities, so I won't be there.
I usually get to pop in at some point.
Yeah, and
other
if
board members, I'd encourage you as well.
yeah, if you guys have the opportunity to go there and thank, or if you're interested in serving, I can put you in contact with the pastor and make it happen.
Yeah, I heard about the sensory garden. Yeah.
So when this conversation started, Mrs. Benedetto was encouraged to think big, and she took that to heart. and you know, bless her for doing so, because the pastor there was like, okay, if you don't ask, we can't say yes. So I look for. I don't know what's on the entire list, but if it's anything like what they've done at our other sites, we are going to be incredibly thankful. And they show up with tractors and building materials and sand and block, and they built the block wall at on the baseball field at the high school. They show up in force. So it's I look forward to it, and I'm sorry I won't be able to attend. I have in past years and put in quite a bit of work, but thank you, Dr. Thurman, for calling out our bus drivers and the hard work that they do. And, you know, one of your best qualities is gratitude and being and showing that gratitude to our staff. And I certainly do appreciate that of you, and please continue to do so. The only other thing is our next meeting will be May 8th. Please take note of the altered start time. Start time for this meeting will be 5 p.m. on May 8th. We will be in closed session for an hour. Then we will break and recognize the district's retirees, and then come back to open session. So it's
I'm gonna botch you up with an announcement.
perfect. Jump in here.
All right. And thank you for the information about our next meeting.
Let's plug.
Yes, so I was at an event this afternoon where our new sheriff lieutenant was present, and he was very excited about what they're calling their Sheriff Spanish Academy that's coming up May 6th to June 10th. I believe it's once a week. And the focus of this is for our Spanish-speaking residents to understand a little bit more about the local sheriff station, and what the officers are doing, talking about public safety topics, an inside view of office procedures, resources, and services, all in Spanish, child care for children up 5 years old and up. And so there's a flyer that's being distributed in both Spanish and English. They gave me the Spanish one first, and I'm like, I need something a little bit better for my notes, so I'm providing this to staff. I understand that the information officer, I think is her title, has reached out to our counseling department at the high school. This is also appropriate for older teenagers if they are interested, but focused for adults.
And Dr. Thurman, can you ask staff to put that on our social media?
Immigration, domestic violence, drugs, gangs, human trafficking, career fair, and more. Okay, great.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to satisfy that expectation that I share. Thank
Perfect.
you for giving me the time to do that.
And then
Do you want it in
I
English too?
challenge you all to meet me Thursday night at the VFW between 5 and 7 for the NJROTC's fundraiser.
Are the kids serving?
I
Anything like that?
don't know, but they're dedicated to service. I bet you they are. I know the song team served when they were engaged in this fundraiser. So I challenge you all. Come there and spaghetti dinner, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And I hope it's as good as what yours looked like tonight. I know.
I'm going to be a BAE system.
So, but if you're available, let's go. All right. Having said that, any reason not to adjourn? We're going back into closed session. All right, let's go ahead and call it. We'll adjourn and go back into closed session. We do not anticipate reporting out on any items left in closed session.